What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us right here on TNT. It is episode number 70 for your Tuesday, 10/22/2024. I am your host, JD from New York. As always, joined by a very proud and humble New York Mets fan who I'm sure is very happy he doesn't have to hear John Smoltz call another Shohei Ohtani game this postseason. The Salamas. I got pro wrestling on the mind, man.
I'm sure he'd love to get Shohei Ohtani in the ring on all fours down on the mats. Boy, he's his favorite baseball player. Yes, that's what I learned this postseason.
Listen, man, I'm a good old fashioned John Smoltz fan. I love John Smoltz, but that's just me, you know.
So you're the one.
About what? What are you talking about? I'm the one. Why am I the one?
Why would you think that I would have any love lost for John Smoltz after all these years being a Mets fan? Why would I love John Smoltz?
I don't know. What did John Smoltz do to you?
I don't like him.
I think he's a good color guy, bro.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Cool. Is Pete Alonso staying with the Mets?
I hope so. After this postseason, I certainly would do everything in my power to make sure that he stays a Met. And we bring Juan Soto over to Queens, but that's a whole other
I don't know, man.
story.
That's a sticky situation because the same thing happened with Rosario and the Braves. He was a MVP when they won the World Series, and then he fucking shit the bed the next couple of years.
Well, yeah, but this is a special talent. And you got to recognize where there's an opportunity to bring over a talent like that. You do whatever it takes to bring over a talent like Juan Soto. So we'll see. Because look, I mean, if they don't win, I think that increases our chances. But we'll see. We'll see.
Are we going for Yankees or Dodgers? I'm going Dodgers in 7.
I'm going to save mine for later.
Okay.
I'll save mine for later.
All right. JD says Dodgers in 7. I don't know what you guys in the chat say. Instead of talking baseball, guys, we got a lot of pro wrestling. We got a lot of pro wrestling news here tonight for you. Episode 70 on Tuesday Night Titans. Thank you guys for joining us as always. Yes, TK Banks, Glavin, Maddox, Smoltz, and Nagel were the fucking top 4, man. I missed that rotation. That was a great rotation.
You know what I love about Tom Glavin? When we brought him over to the Mets,
he wasn't the same.
No, he wasn't the same. And then when they lost, then he was interviewed, and they asked him, "How do you feel about this crushing loss?" He goes, "No, I'm not devastated. Nah,
you know why? Because he was used to it. That's why he was used to all the L's.
Probably, yeah. Plus, he got in a taxi cab accident. Like, I feel like just bad things happened to so many people when they came to New York. Was it Jason Bay? Right? He came over to New York. He shit the bed.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Some bad juju, I guess, here in New York. Some kind of weird thing going on.
Let's blame it on Chipper. He named one of his kids Shay.
Don't get me started.
Listen, guys, we got a lot of wrestling news. We got Samantha Irvin. We'll go over Samantha Irvin. We got a lot to say about that. I know it's obviously, of course, started the tribalism in the IWC, but we will give you guys a very educated and classy explanation on what's going on with Samantha Irvin. I know Jason was you were a very big, I don't want to say big, but you appreciated what she brought to the table, man. I said this last night on the Monday Night Raw post. She was very, very well the way she carried herself. She made big moments feel big, and that's what I really appreciated about her.
She made big moments feel big. Look, I mean, you got Michael Buffer, who was a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
And was always interacting with her on social media. And this is Michael Buffer that we're talking about here. But I made the comment in my own review last night. I said, honestly, I would put her right behind Fink as the best ring announcer in the history of that company. Because to me, Howard Finkel is the measuring stick. He's the gold standard. I mean, you talk about a voice that would make any match feel like a big deal. That's Howard Finkel. And that's to not throw shade at anybody who came after him, whether it was Justin Roberts or Lillian or anybody else. But to me, I would say that she was the most impressive, impactful ring announcer to come along in WWE since the Fink. And that's a long time ago since we heard him on a regular full-time basis.
And that doesn't mean that they haven't had great voices there, which they have. We'll go over that, but it just goes to show you how talented of a woman she was, that she's only been doing this for 4 years, and she is already in discussion for being right behind Howard Finkel, which is, to me, he's the greatest ever, and no one's ever going to touch what he did, but that's crazy. I mean, a lot of people felt the same way, and she made a huge impact, and we'll go over that. We'll discuss if she could potentially be going to AEW. I know what I said on my Raw review last night. We'll see what Jason says here tonight. We got news on Brock Lesnar. There was rumors going around with Brock Lesnar earlier this week. Stephanie Vaquer leaving CMLL to join WWE is now rumored to bring out some new policies within AEW, and we'll go over that as well. There's a Booker T note here as he talks about Zilla Fatu potentially going to WWE, and he may have to wait on that because he's our Crown Jewel champion in House of Glory. The only, right, Jason? The only Crown Jewel champion?
I said, well, the only one that matters.
The only one that matters. Yes.
The only one that matters. I mean, we can't say he's the only one.
Well, I mean, I don't.
We're going to have 2 new ones in a few weeks, but the only one that matters. And, yeah, you know, as the commissioner, I heard that and my ears perked up. And I said, you know, we may have to get our House of Glory attorneys on this because, you know, a little contract tampering going on there potentially. I don't know.
Potentially. We'll go over that. We got news on Kevin Owens. We got news on Chris Jericho contracts. We'll go over all the weekly shows, SmackDown, Raw, and Dynamite leading into tomorrow night on AEW Dynamite. So we got some stuff to go over, guys. So thank you very much as always. Please hit that thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button down below of this channel. Jason's channel is also linked down below in the description. Please go follow him on YouTube as well. And his socials are also down there. So please go show some love on his side of things. Super chats are open. And I know YouTube is glitched because last night during my Raw stream, it just gave me 0 super chats. And I know that wasn't the case last night. And I see no super chats here tonight. So I don't know if it's glitched or not.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I thought I was the only one because I had a very busy night last night, which was great. And then I noticed when I was done and I wrapped up, you know, you go check the analytics of the video, and it was just a straight line.
Nothing. That's what I'm looking at right now. Straight line.
Yeah. So I was up for like another 45 minutes interacting probably with a fucking chat bot, and I'm talking to somebody at YouTube. I just want to verify, like, okay, I see them, like I see the messages, but it's not showing anything. And of course they got to go through the playbook. Well, you know, have you tried to refresh the page? I go, boy, I wish I would have thought of that. Boy, you know, I could have done a whole show out of this conversation I had with this person, but they told me not to worry.
You did it live on air?
No. I wish I did. I did it when I was done because I didn't realize it was an issue until I was already done.
Yeah, so. Apparently that they every time they push out an update, something goes screwy. So
that's like Windows.
Yeah. So super chats are open, guys. So make sure you get them on in, and please hit that thumbs up. Let's try for 750 likes today on episode 70 of TNT. Jason, start us off, man. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk about this because it's funny. I've gotten a few questions from some of my listeners asking me about WrestleMania. And I've been to WrestleManias before, and they wanted to know as far as like tickets and everything. Now, I haven't been to WrestleMania in probably 5 years at this point. I know prices are astronomical for these WWE shows, but today there was an update on WrestleMania 41 tickets, and I don't know if you saw this.
I did not.
So I would like to just update everybody, especially anybody who was thinking about going to Las Vegas next year for WrestleMania, just to give you a sense of what you could expect potentially to spend if you want to go to WrestleMania next year. So what happened is today there was an on sale for the for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I guess if you're a season ticket holder or whatever, there was some kind of special code and you were able to get in, and there was only maybe a quarter of the stadium I think they put up on sale. I think there's actually a pre-sale tomorrow. So anyway, these prices, I'm going to read them to you here. These prices are for the 2-day combo tickets, since we have 2 nights of WrestleMania. This comes from PW Insider. Combo tickets for ringside. Now, I want to give you a guess. What do you think a pair of tickets for WrestleMania next year at ringside will set you back?
Just for one seat?
Well, 1 seat per night. So technically 2 tickets.
$50,000.
No. Come on. Be realistic.
All right, $25,000.
No. It'll set you back about 20 grand.
Jesus.
So about 10 grand each night. If you want to sit ringside for WrestleMania to watch Cody Rhodes and the Final Boss and everybody else, they'll set you back 20 grand. That's if you go by yourself. Okay, so not even like with anybody else or your family. 20 grand. 100 level seating, I presume is just one level up from ringside. One ticket will cost you close to 2 grand. That's with fees included. A partially obstructed view seat in the upper 100 level will cost you a little under $900.
Wait a minute, do they actually say that partially obscured seat?
I think it's either
Obstructed?
partially obscured by the ramp or potentially partially obscured. $900. And the lowest priced ticket, at least at this point, the lowest priced tickets available, they start at a very cheap, very affordable $500 per ticket.
Jeez.
There you go. Vegas, baby. That's how it is. You know, hey, supply and demand. WWE's a hot ticket right now. So if you want to go to WrestleMania, you better pony up.
I can't wait for them to start pushing the highest grossing WrestleMania in the history of the company. Again.
Oh, I would expect them to do that in the next couple of months. I don't even think they're going to wait.
And the funny thing is, this show's going to be sold out before we get to January. So it's going to be like...
Of course. Of course. Well, they're going to do what they always do. They'll open up this, a few sections here, and then when that sells out, they'll open up a few more sections, bit by bit. But anybody who wants to go to WrestleMania wants to get a great seat, I wouldn't wait too long on that.
Now, the way that I think about it, honestly, I mean, I can't ever see myself paying prices like that. The way that I've always told people is when they've invited me to shows, oh, you want to go to this show, you want to go to that show? I'm like, where we sitting? I'm like, I'm not sitting up in the nosebleeds. I'm not sitting, where I can't really see or get a good view of what's going on. Like, I want to sit. Like, I've never sat ringside at anything except, I think, an Extreme Rules show in Pittsburgh many, many years ago. But I was invited there by a couple of friends. But I feel like I need to sit ringside. And would you... I know you've been to a WrestleMania. I have not, so it's probably different for you than it would be for me. I would say maybe once in my lifetime when I'm not doing this anymore and I can just relax and not have to worry about covering the show or doing anything. I think I may actually do that at one point in my life and sit front row at WrestleMania. But would you ever consider doing that for yourself or no?
No.
No.
No. To spend that kind of money to sit in the front row? No, of course not. I sat in the front row. The first WrestleMania I ever went to was 28. Yeah, that was the first Rock Cena. That was supposed to be once in a lifetime, which turned out to be a lie. So that was in Miami, and we started up in the press box, and I thought that's where we were going to be. So we were pretty, the press box is not exactly close to ringside. So, our view was good, but we were pretty high up there, and I was like, all right, cool. And then at one point we went downstairs and we ended up in the friends and family section. So the section where all the wrestlers put their friends and family, I don't remember how, but we ended up in that section. So we were sitting pretty. And when you're down there on the floor level, it is an experience that I feel like everybody should have the chance to experience at least once. Like, it was a very cool thing. Especially, they had a Hell in a Cell match. Remember that night? The end of an era and all that. So it was cool. But one thing that you got to watch for at a lot of these shows, and I remember specifically that WrestleMania, there was an issue. They have these columns. And so you have people who are they end up sitting behind a column. And so for the entirety of the show, you have this just giant obstruction right in front of your face. And if you complain hard enough, maybe they'll move you somewhere else. But most people are shit out of luck, when you end up behind something like that. So you would hope when you buy your tickets that they give you a heads up on that, but that isn't really always the case. And then, of course, you have the issue of that bright light shining. You may have heard about this.
Always,
that's been an issue. That was one of the reasons I said I'm not going to WrestleMania anymore. I missed an entire Randy Orton AJ Styles match because I was looking at the sun.
I remember that,
and it was 8:00 at night. I said I'm seeing spots. So what are we doing here?
I do remember that. Yeah, that would be terrible. I would hate to spend that type of money and then have that type of
of course
experience there. That's awful. But listen, if you guys got the money to do that, then God bless you, man. I wish you nothing but the best. That is great if anybody can afford that. But WrestleMania, they're going to sell theirs. And like Jason said, if you're thinking about going to WrestleMania, you better scoop those tickets up now because that will be sold out very, very quickly. And this is shaping up to be, and I know they'll promote it as such, the biggest WrestleMania of all time because they've already started that. So we will definitely
I said the same thing last night when they aired that commercial on Raw. They had Shawn Michaels right where they were hyping NXT at the ECW Arena. And I said, look, if you want to go, if you guys are interested in going to, I guess it's the 2300 arena now, don't wait because tickets went on sale at noon today and they were gone within 15 minutes. Because, I mean, it's a small venue anyway. But just the novelty of it, you had to know those tickets were just going to go like that. And so they did. Like, if you blinked, they were gone. And that's just the way it is right now. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a 50,000 seat stadium or, like, I don't know how many people that building fits. Let's say 1,500, 2,000. It's going to go like that. If you're not quick.
I'm curious to know how much those tickets were going for. Maybe, what, 200, 250 a pop?
You know, I didn't look, but probably, yeah. And I'm sure they could have gone even for more than that. You know, maybe 300 or 400.
Man, nostalgia sells, huh? I couldn't see myself paying $200 to go watch an NXT product that basically you're getting every single week, but this time in the ECW arena. I mean,
a lot of people would.
That's crazy.
And they were playing off the nostalgia in that commercial last night, right? They were showing all the old ECW highlights.
Yeah, they had the old ECW theme playing.
Yeah. Yeah, so they know what they're doing. They're tapping into that. Look, nostalgia, man. There's a reason why this company and a lot of companies will rely on it because it works and it sells, right?
Well, especially if you do it in moderation and don't do it all the time.
It works.
Yeah. That's good. I'm sure they'll have an ECW style hardcore match in modern day WWE, you know, with the typical plunder, trash cans and kendo sticks, and they'll try and make it extreme and fun. I don't know. We'll see. That night, actually, they're moving to Wednesday. So that show, that ECW 2300 show, is actually going to be competing against Dynamite. That is November 6th after the election. Just to give you guys a heads up, there will be no TNT that week because the election on Tuesday, and then I actually may do a dual review again like I did last time. I think that was a fun time, but we'll see what happens with that week. I don't know what you're planning on doing, but it should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this one is, unlike the most recent head-to-head, there was like a 1 hour overlap. This time, I think it's 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So they really are going head-to-head this time. When they had that last year, I covered both shows, and I swore I would never do that again. It's just, you try to, it is tough. No, because you're reviewing the show. And so you want to make sure that you don't miss anything and and it's not just matches. You got promos and backstage segments. And I just feel like, you don't want to miss anything in the flipping, back and forth. So I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely be covering one or the other, if not both. If I had to cover one, I mean, as I sit here right now, I think maybe for the novelty of it, I might lean more towards NXT.
I think I may lean that way too, especially after some of the disappointment that we've seen coming out of Wrestle Dream. We'll get into that because we started talking about WWE. I think we'll stick with the WWE stuff. I think we should start with SmackDown, Jason. Let's start from last Friday's SmackDown. I know you and I had House of Glory on Friday. I caught up with the show on Friday night when I got home that night, and I went live with my stuff on Saturday afternoon.
It's always so much easier when you can just fast forward through the commercial.
Oh, it's wonderful. I was in and out in an hour and 20 minutes. It's great.
Yeah. Great.
But Friday night was actually not that bad of a show. It was. I know SmackDown has settled into this formulaic kind of lull every single week. It's not really overly exciting. What I said last night when I covered Monday Night Raw was that with that Bronson Reed Seth Rollins Open, it's like this is the sheer difference between SmackDown and Raw. You just get a different sense of chaotic and unpredictability, something that SmackDown could desperately use. And it just seems very boring. It seems very safe, I think is a good word. But I thought Friday's show was very good because we got the debut of the Motor City Machine Guns, which we'll talk about. And then we got, I think it was 3 Bloodline segments. So they really played into the Bloodline heading into Survivor Series story. And Roman Reigns was on the show. Solo was obviously there. The whole Bloodline was there. Jey Uso showed up. And Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa had a stare down and a promo back and forth in the beginning of SmackDown. And Jey Uso looked at Jacob Fatu and the rest of the Tongans and said, you're not really uniting the family. I'm not going to really acknowledge you as the tribal chief after Solo Sikoa has, welcomed him, joined the family once again. We'll welcome you back. I love you. You're my brother. And he looked at the Tongans, Jason, and said, well, you're not really uniting the family. You're breaking the family apart, but why did you have to get these guys? And he really focused on Jacob Fatu, and he stared a hole in Jacob Fatu, and he told Jacob, if you start looking at me anymore like that, I'm going to drop you right here and kick your ass, which I know you said, and then I said on Saturday when I covered it on my stream, that basically sealed his fate, and we all knew where that was going with the IC title coming Monday and that match with Bron Breakker. What'd you make of that segment? And additionally, because I know I made a big deal about it, and I know a lot of people might not care. Some people really expect me to call that stuff out. He was on the show. Nobody expected it. The brand split rules. Why haven't we gotten an explanation? Do you think we need one, or are we just going with Crown Jewel being a Raw versus SmackDown dual show, and we're just going to leave it at that?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't mention the brand split even once. To me, it's just this is what they do. I mean, there's really no point in continuously drawing attention to it, because when you have a show like Crown Jewel, where we do have the overlap between the two shows, but it's not even Crown Jewel. I mean, this is going to continue on into Survivor Series. I mean, do you really think it's going to end after Crown Jewel? Jey Uso was on Raw. He's going to be involved, we know, in this Bloodline story going into War Games. So anybody who thinks this is going to be over at the beginning of November is not paying attention. To me, it's not that big of a deal anymore. We know WWE has never truly taken the brand split seriously in the way they did many, many years ago. They're not going to. There were a lot of things I was hoping for when we had that first, Paul Levesque draft earlier this year. I guess that was the first one. Trades between the GMs and stuff. There's so much stuff that they've left on the table that they just haven't tapped into. So I'm just kind of resigned to it. I didn't see it as a big deal. I like the segment. I thought it was about time that we got Jey interacting with that side of the family, because I almost feel like they're a little behind the eight ball, and maybe they should have started setting the stage for this even a month or two ago. But they have enough time to kind of get things together now for Survivor Series. And like you, as soon as it was over, you knew that he sealed his fate. As far as his title run, he signed his death warrant with that promo on Friday. And as we saw last night, it played out exactly that way.
Yeah, I thought the opening segment was very well done. Jey Uso is always great to see, no matter where he is on any show. I think you're correct. I think, which is kind of disappointing, because when Triple H took over, you expected them to not really make the same blatant mistakes that Vince McMahon did and the old administration did. I would like some sort of explanation, but like you said, it's going to continue happening going into Survivor Series. I'm hoping, low-key, that they do explain that maybe he goes over there full-time. Maybe we get Jey on SmackDown full-time and they do some sort of trade, or they do some supplemental draft. Or, maybe they should just get rid of the draft altogether, honestly, and just kind of merge these two brands into one, which I know they're not going to do. But, I would really look forward to some sort of explanation there. But, that's really hoping on a wing and a prayer here. But as far as the remaining Bloodline segment, after that, we got Jey Uso and Roman Reigns crossing each other. Jimmy Uso, the last week, he said that we need him and we need help. And Roman said, no yeet. So obviously, when Jey and Roman crossed paths, Roman told Jey that he's very proud of him. The whole family's proud of him. And Jey said, no yeet. So clearly he was watching and listening to what Roman was saying the week prior on SmackDown. And then we get to the ending. And Roman basically needed to do something to try and bring the family back together, because he doesn't want the family to be broken. And at the same time, he also doesn't want to kind of let his guard down and kind of show weakness, because, he to me, I feel like he realizes that with Jey and Jimmy and Paul Heyman, they gave him everything. And without them, he probably wouldn't be, with the money and the titles and the fame and the fortune.
He doesn't want the family to be broken. I mean, he's the reason it's broken in the first place.
Well, he also wouldn't have what he had without them either, so he needs them.
Yeah, he needs them. But, I mean, just if you think about, again, he's supposed to be a babyface now. Everybody comes, they go nuts for him when he comes out. They chant OTC, and that's all well and good. But, you can't, as far as the story goes, you can't lose sight of the fact that all of this comes as a result of his own actions. Like, he caused this. This is his fault. And so I do think we need to get a segment here in the build up to War Games at some point where there's an acknowledgement of that. And maybe he even comes right out and apologizes. Maybe Jey calls him out on it, and says, this is all your fault. You're the one who caused this in the first place. And I kind of feel like that character needs to have that moment where it's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. This is my fault. I caused this, and now I'm going to try to fix this.
So what actually would be the cause of it? The fact that he made Solo the right-hand man before he actually lost the championship? Or the fact that he went away and Solo took it upon himself to make himself the tribal chief? Which is it? Or is it a mixture of both?
The way that he treated Jimmy and Jey. I mean, it goes back to the beginning of this entire storyline. I mean, the way that he treated Jey like he was just a lackey. And the way that it was almost like this abusive relationship where Jey just felt like he couldn't pull himself away from it. And every single week, that's how they built sympathy for that character. That's why Jey Uso is a babyface now. That's the whole reason. Because he said, I'm out. And he left the bloodline. He became his own man. He finally broke away from Roman because Roman treated him like dog shit. So it goes back 4 years. It's not just something that happened since he left, after he lost at WrestleMania. I mean, that too, right? That he kind of anointed Solo. Yes, that was also his fault. But this is something that goes back to the beginning. And that's why I was like, man, they're really taking their time here. If they're going to do this at Survivor Series, I hope there's enough time for them to really play this out and tell this story the right way, because there's a lot here. And it goes back more than a year. It goes back 4 years. And so we still need to have that, and I'm sure we will in the next probably couple of weeks. We need to have that segment, whether it's on SmackDown or Raw, probably SmackDown, where we get Jey and we get Roman, in the ring together, and they just hash it out, just let it all out and go through the entire history, how we got here. And in the end, they'll come together, they'll come together for a common cause. But this is something that has been playing out for a very long time. I think longer than maybe some people even remember.
Yeah, I feel you're right that maybe a little bit more time could have gone into telling this story and letting it play out. But do you think, with the idea that there was going to be Raw Superstars on SmackDown and SmackDown Stars on Raw, and that they were going to kind of cross promote this Crown Jewel show, do you feel like they waited with the plan of, hey, instead of having one singular SmackDown show every week leading to Survivor Series, now we have SmackDown and Raw where we can have both of these, these teams, these factions going at it on Raw, and then have it bleed onto SmackDown, and then from SmackDown back to Raw? Do you think that was the plan from the very beginning?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. The Bloodline story is still their number one storyline. I mean, they still rely on it. It's been their golden goose for them now for the last few years. So if you're WWE, why wouldn't you want to play that story out on Monday as opposed to just Friday, right? Everything has revolved around the Bloodline for 4 years. So, of course, they're going to want to maximize their television time for this story as much as possible. If that means you can get some of these guys on Monday, which is not necessarily the best thing to be doing right now because they are 1 hour shorter with a 3-hour roster. So I don't know how the other people on Raw would feel that, okay, now we have the Bloodline on Monday, as if we don't get enough of it on Friday. But if I'm WWE, I mean, I've already built everything around this story. We've got Roman, we've got Jey, right? Two of the biggest stars in the entire company. From their perspective, I'm sure they love, being able to tap into that Bloodline story, have Solo show up, have Jacob Fatu show up, even if it's only for another month. I'm sure that was part of the plan all along.
Now, Roman tried to unite the family by doing something he didn't really want to do on Friday night. That was acknowledge Solo Sikoa. He did acknowledge, but Solo said, no, I'm going to need more than that. I'm going to need you to acknowledge me as the tribal chief. And Roman obviously didn't want to do that. And Solo said, or else. And then Roman really got a little angry and said, or else what, in a very nasty tone. And before you know it, he was dropped, and Jimmy was dragged out from the back. They beat him up in the back, and then Roman was taken care of outside in the ring. Do you feel, Jason, that SmackDown has ended the same way? I know a lot of people reference Groundhog's Day here, the same way every single week, whether it's Randy Orton or Matt Riddle or Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes. Now Roman's feeling the effects of it. Jimmy Uso's feeling the effects of it. I'm sure we'll get Jey Uso beat up before we get to Survivor Series as well, in the same fashion that everybody else got beat up. Are we starting to see a little bit more of the same old shit when it comes to SmackDown ending? Do they need to be a little bit more creative when they write and produce these SmackDown endings? What could they do differently? Because everything feels the same.
You mean you don't enjoy the constant Bloodline beatdowns with Solo sticking his finger up in the air?
No.
At the end of the show, does it excite you anymore?
No, man. I don't go to sleep happy or anything.
Course.
You know.
No. Look, of course, it's after a while, it all sort of blends together, and I wish they would be at least a little bit more creative with it. Try to do something to make it more exciting instead of just because it's the same formula every time. Whether it's Roman, whoever the body is that's laying at their feet, whether they're put through the announce table or they're laying in the middle of the ring after a spike, they're laying there, and then you have the Bloodline stand there throwing their hands up in the air. So yes, it's fucking boring. And you can only do that for so long before people start coming to the realization, like, I feel like I've seen this already. So yes, no, I agree. These endings are not exactly the most exciting, riveting, kind of cliffhanger endings for these TV shows. I know why they're doing it. I know what it's building to. So like I said on Friday, I could see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. Like I know where they're going, and I feel like we're going to have to stomach it for a few more weeks. And probably coming out of Crown Jewel is where things will really kick into that next gear. And hopefully we'll start getting some variety in this, because it's been months of this. And I've had people compare it. Well, people weren't complaining about. I had one person say this, and I was like, "Are you for real?" They're like, "Nobody was complaining about this when the NWO was doing it back in the day." I go, "Brother, everybody started complaining about it back in the day. What are you talking about?" After a while, people get bored of the same shit over and over and over again, even back then, because you got the same thing, right? Every week it was an NWO beatdown. They'd spray paint somebody and they would go off the air. And it was exciting when Sting would come down from the rafters or DDP would come out, right? There was some variety there. But you just get to a point where you can only do the same thing so many times before people say, okay, it's time to get a little creative here and kind of move away from this. So I feel like the timing is right. We're going to be heading into Survivor Series soon. Whatever's going to happen with Solo's Bloodline is going to play out. But I don't think we're done with this yet. I think we may have a few more weeks of this.
What could they do differently to make the show feel a little unpredictable in the closing segment with the Bloodline on SmackDown? Maybe different environment, maybe parking lot, a backstage area, something. I don't know. What could they do?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I think, and it would involve Jey. I think Jey, and we'll see if Sammy gets involved in this story. So, I know it may send a chill up your spine to have Raw guy showing up on SmackDown. I know how you feel about that, but that would change things up a little bit if maybe instead of the Bloodline standing tall, all of a sudden Jey Uso crashes the show. Maybe Jey Uso and Sami Zayn crash the show at some point soon, probably in the next few weeks. I would imagine we'll get a Paul Heyman return to TV. I think things will start to happen now, and we'll start seeing some of these faces, and that should freshen things up a little bit instead of giving us the same old ending, because you can only beat up Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso so many times before people are just tired of seeing it. And I think we're just about at that point now.
Yeah, I think something needs to be done there. So hopefully they do change it up on Friday night. I know there will probably be more repercussions on Friday night. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm really excited about what they did on this past Friday show. Very much looking forward to Friday's show in Brooklyn. It looks like a really, really stacked show. Andrade and Carmelo, number 7, going to be on that show. Motor City Machine Guns, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, against DIY. And the winner of that will go on to wrestle the tag team champions, the Bloodline. When that match is going to take place, I don't know. It'll probably be on the go-home show for Crown Jewel. I can't imagine it's going to be on Crown Jewel. And then I think something else is happening on that show. What else is happening on that show? Something else big. I don't know.
This Friday?
Yeah. It's a loaded show. All I know is it's a loaded show. Barclays Center is going to be rocking and rolling. I guess we'll save the rest of the Bloodline stuff when we cover Raw. We'll get to that in a little bit. I want to stick with SmackDown here. Let's talk about the Motor City Machine Guns, Jason. I was sitting next to you at the House of Glory show on Friday, and you and I both saw it on our Twitter feeds that Nick Aldis brought in both Motor City Machine Guns, Sabin and Shelley, to his office and signed they signed their contracts to SmackDown live on social media. They made a social media post about it after a couple of weeks of vignettes where I guess we all kind of pieced it together that it was going to be the debut of the Motor City Machine Guns. So I guess we'll start there. What did you think of the way that they ushered in the Motor City Machine Guns to SmackDown? Did they go about it the right way? Because I feel with them doing it on social media, some people might not look at it as a big deal. But when they came out, I feel like with the theme music, the fucking Def Rebel AI-generated theme music and the lack of crowd reaction that they got, I'm sure it'll be a lot better in New York City. They just felt like another team, even though we know that they're not. It didn't really feel like it should have been. How did you feel about their debut on SmackDown?
I think a lot of people made a big deal about a whole lot of nothing, honestly. I mean, it was a little weird in that they didn't come right out and tell you who it was that was going to be debuting, right, for weeks. The vignettes were kind of cryptic. The week before, Nick Aldis said, I have a team in mind. They're a brand new team, but he wouldn't tell us who it was. So it felt like they wanted to save the surprise for TV, and then they went and did that, so that was strange. But I saw some people freaking out, like, why are you putting this on social media? And I'm going to tell you why they put it on social media and why it's not a big deal. You heard the reaction they got when they came out. Right? Where were they on Friday? What city was that? You remember?
I don't remember. I could look it up right now.
Well, whatever. It wasn't the Motor City. Okay, let's just put it that way. So they came out on Friday and they got a respectful reaction. I would hardly sit here and tell you they set the world on fire with that reaction from the crowd. And part of it, I think, was just that a lot of people didn't know who they were.
Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. You and I know who they are.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for 18 years. It took them 18 years to get to WWE. But a lot of these fans, they don't know who they are. Or they just don't look at them as being that big of a deal. I think as time goes on, they will be able to show the audience what makes them so special because they are obviously an excellent tag team. But there are just certain people, like if you look at the way WWE operates, okay, take the War Raiders. They just came back to Raw last week, right? They were gone for months, and Eric was out for like a year. Then Ivar got hurt. But they were an established WWE team. And they gave them the surprise return, right? They didn't say anything in advance. They had the cryptic promos just like the Machine Guns did, but it's not like before the break they said, hey, coming up next, the War Raiders are here. They waited, and they came out, and it's like, oh, my God, look who's back. Because they're a WWE team, and the audience, in their mind, the audience already knows who they are. For the Machine Guns, I think the WWE looked at it, and they said, it's kind of like the Nick Aldis thing. Remember when Nick Aldis debuted on SmackDown? Did he get an entrance?
No, he was just standing in the ring. It's like
he teleported to ringside.
It's Nick Aldis.
Yeah, it's like he's just walking up the stairs. At first, I'm like, what, is this security? Who is this person? So they didn't give him an entrance. They didn't give him music. Literally, Triple H was standing in the ring, and the camera panned over, and he goes, Nick Aldis, and he just walks up the stairs into the ring. Because I feel like they felt their audience either just wouldn't know or wouldn't care. So they said, all right, you know what? We'll just, no fanfare. We'll bring him out. We'll introduce him, give him the microphone, let him explain who he is. And I feel like this was kind of a similar type of situation where to them, it wasn't a big deal to do it this way. They felt like, it'll help maybe to put this out there a few hours, what was it, 5 hours or whatever before the show. Quick 3-minute segment in the back. And all this was like dropping little comments because he knew them obviously from TNA. He didn't say that, but you could tell just from the dialogue there. I didn't look at it as being that big of a deal. It's not as if they made their actual in-ring debut on, main event. They debuted on SmackDown, but they put their contract segment on social media 5 hours before the show. Did it really change the crowd reaction they were going to get when they came out that night? Let's be honest. No, I don't think the reaction was going to be what the reaction was going to be. So I didn't look at it as a big deal. I didn't look at it as, oh my God, they're already giving up on the Machine Guns. We're already slotting them at a certain level. No, they're not. Yeah, there were a lot of people making very dumb comments like that. It wasn't a big deal. And honestly, I didn't think that them in the triple threat match really showcased them in the best way. Yeah, there was a lot of traffic going on in that match. The match they're going to have with DIY this week, that will be a much better showcase. And I think that match will help them get over much better than anything they did on Friday night.
And that's exactly what's going to get them over is their in-ring work when they wrestle when they wrestle teams like DIY. Just the same way, like you mentioned with Nick Aldis. Like everybody, I think people were like, "Well, Nick Aldis is an established wrestler. He's a great storyteller. Why are they not putting him in the ring? He's not injured." And I said then, I'm like you said, the audience doesn't know who he is. When the crowd realizes how he talks and how he carries himself and he interacts with everybody else on the roster, you're going to know who he is. You're going to actually have some emotional investment in him, and then you're going to like him a little bit more. So if they threw him in the ring right away with nobody knowing who he was, it's like, all right, this bombed. This is a fucking fail right here. So
yeah. And also the fact is, if they wanted Nick Aldis in the ring, they would have signed him years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just being honest here, I mean, the reason Nick Aldis did not sign with WWE is because WWE at the time did not have any interest in bringing in Nick Aldis. He wasn't going to say no to a WWE deal. Yeah, I'm sure he aspired to one day get to that level. It didn't happen. Finally, an opportunity came along. I think he's killed it. I think he's great in the role, and I do think we're going to see him in the ring at some point when the opportunity presents itself. But that's why they didn't have him in the ring doing matches. If they wanted Nick Aldis, they would have signed him years ago. This is the role they had in mind for him. And again, there may be a storyline that comes along at some point. Remember we thought, I remember thinking they might be setting something up with him and Randy Orton like a year ago.
Yep.
And then it didn't go anywhere, maybe for like WrestleMania. That could be a match one day that we get. But right now, he's in a good spot. And by the way, if they ever do decide to transition him out of that role and into the ring, they've already got William Regal there. We know he makes a great GM, so it wouldn't be hard to replace Nick Aldis.
Absolutely. I miss William Regal. Nick Aldis, I do agree, will be in a wrestling role for sure on WWE TV when the time is right. Motor City Machine Guns did win that triple threat match. They wrestled DIY in Brooklyn on Friday night. That's going to be a takeover-like banger for sure. Winner of that will go on to wrestle the Bloodline for the tag team titles over on SmackDown. We don't know when or where that will be, but I know they are taping 2 shows on Friday night because they are doing the next week's show Friday as well, and then Crown Jewel that following weekend. So
I think that Raw that Monday, right? They're taping it that Sunday in Saudi.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be. You got to get used to the tape shows, guys. I know I hate them. Jason hates them. I just can't stand them. So we got a couple more weeks just to get through it. This Crown Jewel nonsense, and then we'll be on our way to Survivor Series.
Isn't that a great way to promote the show? Like,
and let's get through it.
Let's just get through it. It's like an operation or something. Let's just get it over with.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Machine Guns a little bit later when we get to the Raw review, because I think Jason and I have the same idea about what's going on there with them challenging the Bloodline for the Tag Team Championships. Tit for tat. Jey Uso is going to find revenge some way, and it may be through those tag team titles and costing the Tongans the titles. We'll get to that in a little bit, but Kevin Owens. There was rumors of Kevin Owens signing a new WWE deal, and this is coming from WrestleVotes via Sportskeeda's Backstage Pass on Patreon. They report that Owens is close to signing a new deal. And WrestleVotes says, and I quote, "I did reach out and talk to a couple of people. I did not get a definitive one way or another. An absolute that the deal has been signed, but I did get a positive response, and it's very close, if not completed, with a handshake between Owens and WWE. So I would imagine he's around for the long term now." The reason I preface this, Jason, before we get into what Owens said on SmackDown, is he filmed another social media video from his car. He actually uploaded it on Friday. Owens is mad that officials told him to stay home because he feels it's unfair and ridiculous because we see ambushes every week on WWE TV. Owens mocked the fact that he dropped Cody Rhodes. He called him the golden boy outside his stupid bus. And let's be honest, he feels he wasn't wrong. Owens questioned how much he's valued in WWE. Above all, he's mad that Randy Orton betrayed him. "How could you choose Cody Rhodes over me? I thought we had a friendship that was different from the other friends I've had." And he said Orton picked Cody over him. So are they bringing Kevin Owens' contract situation that is obviously a rumor right now? Are they bringing that to the forefront as a possible storyline and integrating it into this KO and Randy Orton storyline and where Kevin Owens sits on Friday night?
I don't think so. I mean, that's not the impression that I get.
No.
I mean, see, I don't think that that's something that, is Triple H really going to bother? Like, okay, he knows that a certain small segment of the audience who pays attention to these types of stories online might be aware of the fact that Kevin Owens' contract is coming up soon. So they're really going to craft a storyline without mentioning any of that on TV. It's not like it's ever been mentioned, right? It's like the Daniel Garcia thing in AEW when he came back and cut that promo, and the way he was talking. Like, if you were a fan watching the show and not keeping up with every news story, you would never know, because it was never mentioned on TV that Garcia's contract was up. You probably would watch it and think, what the hell? What's he talking about? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I didn't even know he was, a free agent. In this case, I don't think they're going to build this story around that. This story is much bigger than that. This story, ultimately, I think it really just ends up with Cody and Randy. So no, I don't think that they're necessarily incorporating that real life situation into this. I think they're taking a very unique approach, to this storyline. With Triple H not wanting anybody to talk about it, and we're going to handle this internally. And then you had that segment where Randy Orton confronted Nick Aldis, and he said, "I want Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel," and Nick Aldis said, "Well, I can't do that. Not that I wouldn't want to. I can't. It's above me. It's above my head." And without saying the name Triple H, Randy Orton, kind of like a light bulb went off, and he said, "Okay, I know who I have to go to." So I think it's a unique approach to the story, and I don't know where that leads. So I assume it leads to a segment with Randy Orton and Triple H, but I don't know what comes out of it. The one thing is, I still don't think we get that match at Crown Jewel. Yeah, we know we're going to get it, but it still feels, I don't know, it just feels like they're going to make us wait a little bit longer before we get Randy and KO. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mentioned on my stream, I don't know if they'd actually do it at Survivor Series. I think Randy Orton is too big of a name to keep off the Survivor Series card. It's a possibility they do it there, but I'm thinking maybe Saturday night's main event, that they do a one-on-one match. Do they stretch it out any further than that? Are we looking at WWE formulating a story between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton that takes us from where we are right now, and they're keeping Owens on TV, and it's an internal matter, they're going to deal with it internally? Are they going to really slow play this thing out to where they are each other's WrestleMania opponents, or is that going to be too long of a wait to see this play out?
No, I think, well, you're talking about Orton and KO.
Yeah.
Specifically, no.
Yeah.
I think Saturday night's main event would make more sense. Look, at the end of his promo, Owens said, "Look, I don't know when or if I'm going to be back." And that just read to me like they're going to keep him off television for a few weeks at least. So if he's not around, that he just sort of disappears and he's off TV for the next 3-4 weeks, then you can bring him back. And at that point, we're a little bit deeper into November. It does bring up the question of, what is Cody going to do at Survivor Series? Is he going to wrestle Owens? Is it going to be a three-way match? I don't know, because they're all connected. And it's not like they're setting up another opponent for Cody other than maybe Kevin Owens. Who is anybody else being even teased as a potential opponent right now for Cody outside of Owens? No. So I don't know how they work that, but just based on what Owens said, you can keep him off TV for a few weeks, get some length out of this. I feel like Saturday night's main event, if not Orton and KO, would be good for a first match between Randy and Cody. Because I am of the opinion you don't have to first turn Randy Orton and then do a match with Cody. You could have a babyface against babyface match, because the one thing that just does not make any sense if they don't address this at some point, Cody Rhodes gifted Kevin Owens a championship match for Bash in Berlin. If you're Randy Orton, aren't you thinking, what about me?
Well, he's going to want...
They've all been in this together.
Realistically, he's going to want something in return for helping Cody kind of neutralize Kevin Owens here. He's gonna want like, listen, I took care of this guy. I'm trying to still talk some sense into him.
But he's not doing it for Cody. He's gonna
want something in return for his troubles, no?
Not even that. I just think, like, look, if you took it upon yourself to tell Kevin Owens, who didn't even want the match because he didn't think he deserved it, because he had lost a lot of big matches, and you gifted him this championship match at Bash in Berlin, what about me? Right? You and I, we've got history together. I've been by your side. I've watched your back. I've taken some beatings over the summer for you, over the past year. And you know what? I want to win title number 15. What about me? And it could be as simple as that, to set up that first match. And then you could always shoot the angle at the end of that match where maybe Orton, drops Cody, or he takes a shortcut and he beats Cody. Because we've talked about that as a possibility. Why not take the belt off Cody and have him chase, right? I mean, we know why. There's one 300-pound reason why they might not do that. But yeah, I look at Saturday night's main event, and maybe the play is Cody and Randy for the first time, and that could be the kickoff to a longer story between them without knowing where The Rock falls into all this. There's a lot of different options here. I mean, I like the story. I find it interesting, which is really all you can ask for. If you're going to tell a story on TV, just do it in a way that keeps my interest. And I don't quite know where they're going to go with this and how they're going to get there. And I like that about it. Because you can't say that about every other story they're telling right now on TV.
Yeah, it's very unpredictable. It's probably
the most interesting thing Cody's done since WrestleMania. Let's be honest.
Listen, I would be. This may be a little bit of a hot take, but I actually am more interested in this angle than I am the Bloodline. I think.
No, I don't think that's a hot take.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of people who are kind of, if they're not bored, they probably have this mentality of kind of been there, done that already with the Bloodline. Not even that they hate it, but like, all right, the Bloodline thing's been going on now for years. So I don't even look at it as a hot take. I kind of feel the same way. And I do think it's easily the most interesting thing that Cody has been involved in since he won the championship. A lot of people shit on Cody and his promos. And I'm not usually one of those people, but I will tell you, that promo that he cut on Friday, I thought was fucking terrible.
That was awful.
It was awful. It was boring. It was uninspired and meandering. It was just, and it's one of the reasons that I dislike this whole brand versus brand thing, because there's no story there. There is no interesting story there.
Which is sad, because they're two legitimately great pro wrestlers, and they're going to have we all know it's going to be a great match. It's just like there's no fucking emotion there. There's no story there.
No, but think about it. Like, so Cody comes out and he talks about how, I took the John Cena schedule when I came back, and I even do more than John Cena did. And now I've got to win this Crown Jewel championship. Basically, he was saying he has to win it for his daughter. And they even had Gunther mocking him on Raw last night, like bringing up your daughter, bringing up your family. But he says this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why do you have to win the Crown Jewel title for your daughter? Like, you hold the top championship in the entire company. We sat through this story. You finally finished the story of WrestleMania, right? You won the big one. Now this title that didn't even exist a few weeks ago. Oh, I've got to win it. I've got to win it for my daughter. And the kicker was that he invites Gunther to come to SmackDown this week. Maybe this is what we were trying to remember as far as what they're promoting for Friday. But he's like, Gunther, I invite you to come to SmackDown so that you can come to the ring and you could tell me why the Crown Jewel title means something to you and why you have to win the Crown Jewel championship. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I don't give a shit. Like, who cares?
Didn't we see that last week?
Yes. They were in the ring together on Raw last Monday. They had a face-to-face. So now we have to wait an entire week for Gunther to come to SmackDown and cut a promo on something that doesn't even matter. So I fucking hated it. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was the worst Cody Rhodes promo of all the promos he's cut since he came back to the company.
He tried very hard by mentioning, I got the names here, Harley Race, Ric Flair, Nick Bockwinkel, Goldberg, Steve Austin. He mentioned all these names to try and make it feel super important, Cody.
Yeah, and again, he's trying. I'm not even putting it all on him like his delivery was terrible. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot to work with in that promo, and it just felt completely pointless to me. And so I hated it. It was one of the things I hated the most about SmackDown on Friday. And I don't know that the segment coming up this Friday, frankly, is going to be much better. I mean, we'll see. I like Gunther, and when he gets those very subtle digs in, then he smiles. He's very proud of his work.
And like he did with Damian Priest last night. Priest, like, I'm coming after that world championship. I'm going to be the world champion. And then he looked at Damian Priest. He smiled and smirked and said, "Yeah, good for you," and walked away.
Yeah. He's just such a smug prick. He's so good in the role. So maybe it'll be mildly entertaining. But yeah, this is not hitting for me. And it's like we said before. It's just like, all right, let's just get through this and get beyond it. And then we could focus on the real core stories going into Survivor Series, which is going to be the Bloodline Civil War. and then the stuff with Cody and Randy and KO. And that's really what people are waiting to see.
Are you playing this Cody Randy thing out as a full-fledged feud going into WrestleMania season? Because I know you said you would have Randy Orton win, I believe you said, by like kind of nefarious ways. Are we taking the title off Cody and only put it back on him before WrestleMania? How do you see that playing out if they do that storyline right then? Because I think we all assume The Rock is going to be involved with WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure he is. And that's going to involve Cody as well. What do we do there? Do we take the title off him? Do we give Randy a little bit more time to fester after a loss, and then they kind of revisit it after WrestleMania?
I almost think you have to, because what the hell do these guys do if not? Like, if the plan is Rock and Cody or some combination of Rock, Cody, and Roman at WrestleMania, like, I'm looking at Randy Orton, and I don't know what you do with him unless you do something right now, heading into the end of the year and maybe into the beginning of next year. And it's a lot easier to think about what I would want to do if The Rock was not going to be involved with Cody and maybe Rock is going to be doing something else, because then, I play it out as a full-fledged story and I take it all the way to WrestleMania. But because of Rock, if we are to believe that he is going to be wrestling Cody or involved with Cody in some way, it makes it a little bit more difficult. I just don't know what else you do with Randy, heading into WrestleMania. You're just going to have to slot him in some other random feud. I don't like that. You could do something initially and then come back to it after the fact. I don't really like that either, but it's Rock, so you may not have a choice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe they go back and really do revisit KO and Randy Orton, and maybe Kevin Owens really doesn't turn heel. Randy turns heel, takes the title from Cody. Cody wins it back, and maybe we get KO kind of saving Cody Rhodes, and they wrestle each other one-on-one at WrestleMania. I don't know. I mean, I think at some point, Rock is going to be involved in WrestleMania. I think at some point KO and Randy are going to kind of cross paths once again, and that's going to be the WrestleMania match. I don't know why I'm feeling that. I could be wrong, but I feel like
it could be.
That's going to happen.
It could be.
Yeah. I do want to mention this because this has been a recurring theme on both shows. Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson have been very prominent on TV. They've been on Raw and SmackDown the last 2 weeks. And there was news about why WWE is doing this. And they feel like, Jason, that Metaphor, which is an NXT group of Oro Menza and Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, and Noam Dar, they feel, this is coming from Ibu of Wrestle Purists, that they are a main roster level act. And they're looking to see if the ladies can hang on the main roster and look professional. I know. I laughed at it, too. It's fucking ridiculous.
Metaphor, huh?
Yeah, metaphor. He said...
I'm trying to come up with a good metaphor for this.
Yeah, you do that. Let me finish this. Just so that we'll keep them up there if they do well on the main roster. Otherwise, that's fine. We got a cool evaluation of them. They'll take some more time and reinstate Metaphor in NXT for a little bit, and then they'll circle back around draft season, if not later next year. That's kind of the situation with that. Evil's cool, but I do not think this is a main roster act. I think it's very much an NXT stable. And I don't think Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson are main roster level performers just yet. They will be, because Lash Legend does have some promise. I'm not really sold on it completely, but they really are pushing the tag team division in the women's division, Jason, as of late. Now, I get why they're doing it, because it's a lot better than it was. I just don't really see any value no matter who's vying for that championship. But they're looking to get these ladies some evaluation. They've done okay for themselves in the little time that we've seen. What do you make of this, and do you think Metaphor is a mainstay on the main roster, even if they do get called up later on down the road?
No, I don't look at Metaphor as being a main roster faction, but Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, doing stuff in the tag division and stuff, I don't really have an issue with that. I agree. I think that they probably would be better suited to spend more time in NXT instead of being vaulted up right now to the main roster. But like Lash Legend in particular, I see what they see in her. And I do think that at some point that the potential is there for her to be a big star on the main roster. And I think a lot of it has to do with her she's a great athlete.
I think she played WNBA basketball.
She played college basketball. She played, I think it was only 3 games in the WNBA, okay, but she did play in the WNBA. The thing with her is, like, there were stories about her strength records that she was setting at the PC, and how she even bested one of the records that Bianca Belair set. So like she's very strong and she's very athletic. And we saw this earlier in the year when she body slammed Otis on NXT. And you saw the reaction it got, and that was at the PC in front of like 250 people. Now imagine if she did a spot like that on TV on SmackDown in a building with like 8,000 people. Yeah. Like people would lose their mind.
And she got a decent reaction by picking up Piper Niven. That finish really looked good.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that tells me that the potential is there for her to really get over good in front of that audience. And a lot of it has to do with her power moves and her offense. And honestly, not unlike Jade Cargill, because if you look at what they've been doing with Jade, every single match that Jade and Bianca have, what is the formula they follow? The hot tag to Jade. And then Jade comes in.
You're talking about fucking boring. Holy shit.
But it works, though. You could say it's boring, but dude, when she tags in, the crowd reacts to it. So it doesn't seem boring to them. It seems like it's working. Now, you can only do that for so long. It will get old at some point, and I have to imagine that they are probably building to a singles match between them at WrestleMania next year. I think the end goal here, is Bianca against Jade. We'll see. We'll see if that ends up happening. Right now, they have the tag team titles. But it's similar to Jade in that way, where Jade is another one who could probably use some more, seasoning before you expect her to be able to go out there and have a great 15-minute singles match. I mean, is she in a position right now where you would trust that she can go out there and have a great 12 or 15-minute singles match without the benefit of being in a tag match?
Absolutely
Probably not.
No.
And I feel like Lash is in that same boat, but I think that she has the potential to be a big star on the main roster. I don't know that now is necessarily that time, but the whole Meta 4 faction, I mean, me personally, I don't see that as a main roster. Do you see Chase U as a main roster act? Because look, it works in NXT. People enjoy it. People go nuts for it. It's been around for a while. I thought by now it would be done. Do I think they could get some juice out of it for a little while on the main roster? Maybe for a little bit, but I don't really see there being that much of a shelf life with a gimmick like that on the main roster.
No, it's a 2.0 gimmick, just like Meta 4 was. It's something that was had a shelf life in that version of NXT, and now they're kind of shifting gears and they're trying to keep what they feel could work, but gimmicks like that are not going to work on the main roster. I think you even mentioned Tony D'Angelo, because we talked about Tony D'Angelo and the North American Championship title victory he had over Obafemi. I think that Tony's gimmick could work on the main roster if they actually kind of do it a little subtly and give it a little bit more of a serious undertone. But if they keep it, with semi-serious and semi-cheesy, I think people are going to kind of roll their eyes at it and be kind of cringed about it. I think that it could work. I know you said maybe not fully. How do you still feel that way about that?
Yeah, no, I think it has a ceiling. I really do. I think at some point it would really hold him back. So kind of like Chase U, I think it would work maybe initially, but it has a ceiling. It has a ceiling. It's got it has a time limit on it, and at some point you would have to evolve and change. And I think they could do that. But yeah, I mean, Metaphor just kind of fits into that same category where, I mean, I don't even want to sit here and say, because it works in NXT, but it wouldn't work on the main roster. Is it working in NXT? No. I know they've been doing it for a while, but what's your definition of working? How do you define working here? Is it really working? I don't know about that.
No, I mean, it's the same type of stuff that you guys claim, oh, man, you guys got to watch NXT. When I see that on the TV, yep, it goes right off. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Monday Night Raw. Let's shift gears to Monday Night Raw. I said, Jason, that this was probably, we don't have a lot to go off of, but this was probably the best 2-hour Raw since the extension on USA Network. I would say that's to be the case. What do you say?
Well, that's a short sample size. My God. We're really just talking about 2 shows, if you think about it, because they taped 2 shows in one night. I kind of count that as just one. They taped 2 shows in the same city in front of the same crowd.
Yeah.
And so now this was the second live show in the 2-hour format. And wouldn't you know, it worked a lot better than it did in week 1. So I can happily sit here and say for all the people who were like, oh, you're clamoring for 3-hour shows. Why not? See, 2-hour Raws could work. It just was going to take them a little bit of time to adapt. I do not miss the 3-hour shows. I know
it's funny. It's funny. We didn't hear any complaints about wanting 3 hours last night. I wonder why.
pretty incredible. Yeah. You know how that works. So yeah, no, I am fine with the 2-hour format. I do not miss the 3-hour shows. I know we'll get them back at some point. They're going to go to Netflix, and I know there's been conflicting reports. It could be closer to 3. It's going to be 3 fucking hours. I mean, let's be honest. They're going to go right back to the way they were. We might get 3.5 hours on some weeks.
I think the latest report was anywhere between 2 and 3 hours. Like, no shit, man. Thanks for the real update.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the best of the 2-hour shows of 3 that we've had so far. Again, not a big sample size, but I just felt like it flowed a little bit better. There was just more on the show that was interesting to me than there was in week 1. Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed also had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins, they got their match at Crown Jewel. They started the show off with a big chaotic brawl. They brawled throughout the show. Adam Pearce eventually gave them their match. I'm glad to see that happening at Crown Jewel and not on Monday Night Raw. So at least we have something with some story coming out of Crown Jewel. So that's good to see. The big thing that happened last night, obviously, was the IC title match with Jey Uso and Bron Breakker. And like we discussed during the SmackDown discussion, Jey Uso basically sealed his fate when he called out the Tongans and Jacob Fatu looking at him and said, if you keep looking at me sideways, I'm going to drop you right here and kick your ass. And it was Jacob Fatu, Jason, last night who pulled the trigger and cost Jey Uso the Intercontinental Championship. Bron Breakker is now a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. With this happening last night, obviously we see where they're going with this, but the one thing that I took away from this was Solo Sikoa. He, again, showed up, and I believe he was waving tickets, correct? He was waving tickets? That's the reason why he was there?
Yeah, which was amazing. And I joked about it last night. I said, boy, how many people have paper tickets anymore? Like, he's waving the 2 paper tickets. I guess it's better than just waving his phone with like a QR code around.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, I got 2 tickets here. I got one for me and I got one for Solo.
So he looked to be there to, again, welcome Jey Uso into the Bloodline. And obviously, there was a situation where Bron Breakker was about to deliver a spear, and Solo Sikoa ended up getting speared instead. Jacob Fatu, I saw him.
No, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there for a second because I actually missed this last night.
Okay.
And I caught it on a rewatch. But did you notice that Solo pushed Jey out of the way?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't pick up on that at first.
Yes.
Because it happened so quickly. But he pushed him out of the way and he took the spear. And the first thing I thought of is, because you had Jacob Fatu standing right there. And this right here, I mean, this was so perfect. The way that they shot this and the way that they teased this. Because they showed Jacob, and Jacob is he's great in this role. Just the look on his face, right? And then he climbs over the barricade. Bron Breakker's got his back turned. He senses that there's someone behind him. And he turns around, and now we got to stare down. And it didn't take more than 5 seconds, if that, for the crowd to pick up on what was going on here. And you heard that reaction from the crowd. Okay, you heard the excitement in people's voices as they came together face to face. And my first thought is, man, this right here is going to be a WrestleMania match one day. But for sure, it's going to be a major like PLE main event. These 2 guys, the fans wanted them to go one-on-one right here and now. And I think that's a credit to WWE, just to give them credit here, because Bron Breakker was their own little pet project here. And Jacob Fatu, obviously, he was established on the independent scene, but they have handled him perfectly so far. And I feel like that's almost like a reward for the way that they have handled these 2. That they have already gotten these guys in a position where they haven't really been exposed to the main roster audience for that long. And yet people reacted to it like, holy shit, I want to see these 2 guys go at it.
Because they've had consistent television. They've been on TV every single week in prominent roles. You see the level up process that both guys that they're going through, and people are emotionally invested in what they are both doing. The care and the tender loving care that you give your superstars is going to pay off as far as a crowd and fan investment emotionally. Love it. And I don't know when it's going to happen at WrestleMania, but it certainly is going to happen at a WrestleMania when the time is right. Bron Breakker needs to find his final form, and Jacob Fatu needs to find his final form. I could see that being for a world championship somewhere. It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah, no, without question. I mean, two guys, if you had to describe people on the roster right now today, like a couple of badasses. These are the two guys that you would think of. And maybe throw, Sheamus in there too. But these are the two guys that you would think of. So that to me was one of the biggest takeaways from this entire thing. And it was so brief, right? It was only a few seconds. And they didn't touch. They came close, but they didn't touch. But that was a moment right there during that match. And then we see how things played out for the remainder of the match.
Yeah, it also wasn't done to give it the cool factor. Let's do this stare down. No, they planted that seed because they want you to see where they're going. They want you to see what they're thinking ahead in the future, a couple of years from now. But yes, he did shove him out of the way. And my question to you is, Jason, Jacob Fatu looked at Solo Sikoa as if, like, what are you doing? And I know you and I have both documented that Solo Sikoa really isn't the most winningest tribal chief. He's quite the loser. Is this the situation where we get Jacob Fatu thinking and mulling over that maybe he really isn't my tribal chief? Maybe Solo Sikoa isn't the one. Do we get now a bloodline story involving the Renegade bloodline here that Jacob Fatu and the rest of the Tongans kind of overthrow Solo? He's no longer the tribal chief. And like you and I both discussed several times on this show, he'd have to go groveling back to Roman and his brothers, and the OG bloodline gets back together, and Solo now joins his family to stop Jacob Fatu and the Tongans, and then they maybe enlist Hikuleo, and they get that to be the War Games team against the OG bloodline for Survivor Series.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very good chance of that. I mentioned Sami Zayn before. We don't know that Sami is going to be brought back into this. He's not obviously part of the family itself. But yes, I mean, what I've been saying is the whole point of the story is Solo took over from Roman because Roman failed the family. He lost, and losing has consequences. And that's all Solo has done, is lose for the last few months. So for that alone, I was waiting to see it. At what point does he suffer the consequences of that? But then we saw what we saw last night, where it looked like maybe he really was trying to help out Jey. Right? He pushes him out of the way. Jacob attacking Jey, we don't know. I mean, that maybe that wasn't part of the plan. Maybe he kind of went a little rogue there, and Solo didn't want Jacob to attack Jey that way. Because Jey made that comment on Friday. He said, "Look, you keep staring at me and looking at me that way. I'm gonna drop you where you stand." And I'm sure Jacob didn't forget that. So that's another aspect to this as well. Yeah, you know what? If Sammy's not going to be involved here and you need an even 4-on-4, it does work out where in the next few weeks, if Solo was to be excommunicated from his own crew, Jacob Fatu, it's not going to be hard to slot him in there as the leader. He should be the leader anyway. Okay, let's be honest, right? He was with the Contra Unit faction and MLW and all that stuff, but he's the guy. So him leading this new bloodline, it's not going to be hard to buy into that. And then we actually start to hear him cutting promos. Right? He had that one promo a few weeks ago when they were in the back. Remember that, walking through the backstage area? We know he can go out there and cut a promo. And then Solo has to effectively go groveling back to, his brothers and Roman. You get 4 on that side. Hikuleo would even things out on the other side, right? You got the 3 Tongans and Jacob Fatu. Then you got your War Games match. How and when do you introduce Hikuleo? Do you introduce him the night that they kick Solo out of the group?
I think so,
if it works out that way?
Yeah.
Okay. You could do that. You could do that.
So Jey Uso lost the Intercontinental Championship thanks to Jacob Fatu. Solo did show some weakness. He still obviously loves his brother, and he did show that sign of weakness. So that's going to be something to keep an eye out on going into Friday Night SmackDown. Now, with Jey Uso losing the Intercontinental Championship due to the bloodline, he's now involved. He didn't have a reason to get involved with his family now, but now he sees what he needs to do. So he will be confronting Roman and Jimmy. There will be something that goes on there on Friday night. Again, that's going to be very interesting to see play out. But as far as revenge goes, Jason, now Jey lost the title. Bron's the new Intercontinental Champion. How does he get back at the Tongans? Now, if the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY are wrestling a number 1 contenders match on Friday, I would presume that WWE is not going to beat the Motor City Machine Guns in their second match. I think they go over DIY and they get the match with the Bloodline. When and where, we don't know. Now, if you're going to put them in a title match, their third match in WWE. Again, I don't see WWE beating them so soon. I think they have this thing where they want to kind of rebuild the division around them and really get some tag team wrestling back to where it used to be on Monday and Friday, to be quite honest with you. So they win the tag team championships from the Bloodline, thanks to Jey Uso. Do you see that playing out?
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it playing out. I mean, it's the sweetest revenge, right? They cost him his championship, and he turns right back around and costs them their tag team titles. I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world to me. Puts more heat on that feud there. And it puts the Machine Guns in a position very early on in their run to be viewed by the fans. Like, they're putting them in a position, if they do that, like, okay, these guys are somebody that you should care about. They're tag team champions, 3 matches in. These guys should be looked at as a big deal. I don't see the point in beating them and having DIY go over, and DIY already had a run, which is not to say they won't get a run again at some point. But yeah, no, I think the Machine Guns win. They go on to face the Bloodline. Do they get a cheap win? Yes, it would be a cheap win if they need help to win. But the bigger story here is the Bloodline. It's not even so much about the Machine Guns. And then I think you get the belts off them, and now you've set the stage for a War Games match, whatever the configuration of the teams is going to be heading into Survivor Series. It just makes all the sense in the world to me.
I like it. I think that all works out beautifully. And finally, we get some excitement. Those juices flowing off Friday Night SmackDown, so it's going to be good. The other big thing that happened on Monday Night Raw is we saw the return of the Wyatt Six. They confronted the Final Testament, Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain. Bo Dallas gave Paul Ellering the mandible claw last night on Monday Night Raw. Don't know if it wrote him off of this program and maybe out of the story. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, we can't. My God, are you kidding me? You mean you're going to write out Paul Ellering? I mean, think of all the things he's done on TV.
He's been such an integral part of that tag team, man. It's unbelievable.
Oh my God, he's such an important part of the show. I can't imagine they would write him off.
Has he said a fucking word in the entire time he's been with them?
I don't think so. I think it's some social media promo, but I can't remember. If he did, it was brief. It didn't really obviously leave much of an impact on my mind. I mean, he is the very definition of, okay, Triple H just he obviously loves and respects Paul Ellering, and he's the one who had him in NXT originally, right? Managing AOP. And he's a student of the game, and it just reeks of, okay, I want to give this guy a job, and I want to give him something to do. And so he did. But he comes out every week. He's got, the gloves on his hand. He got the shades on. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't factor in. He doesn't interfere in matches. He's not physically getting it. And he's an older man now, but he's not doing anything. He's just kind of there. I didn't even notice he was in the corner at the time when, Bo went to go put the mandible claw on Miz. And I think Ellering shoved him out of the way. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know he was there. And it's like, am I supposed to feel something with him putting Ellering down? Like, okay, maybe they're writing him off for good. Maybe he doesn't want to be on the road anymore. I have no idea, but it's just such a waste to not tap into, because he can talk. I mean, it's not like he's a bad promo. He used to cut promos back in the day. I don't know. I don't get it. It's just a weird thing. He's just sort of there.
I think Triple H, when he looks at Paul Ellering, he gets that warm and fuzzy feeling in his gut. He's like, oh man, my glory days of black and gold. Look, I got Paul Ellering at AOP. Remember when Vince McMahon took Paul Ellering away from AOP, and then who'd they give him as a manager? Who'd they give him as a manager?
Oh, Rockstar Spud.
Oh my God. And then he peed, and then he peed his pants.
Whatever he was called.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that. You know what it's like though?
What did he take? Bobby Roode's robe and pee his pants?
No, that was at Survivor Series. And I think wasn't Big Show involved? Like, he was scared of Big Show.
Oh my God, man, what an awful fucking time, bro.
He's standing there and he's got the tube running down his leg, and all of a sudden, I'm sure you know who was sitting in the back cackling his ass off, like it was the funniest thing in the world. But I would liken it to like Tony Khan with some of the legends that he's brought in, but isn't necessarily doing much with in a managerial role, i.e. Jake Roberts. I think it's kind of a similar thing where it's like he gives Jake a job, and there's certainly things that Jake can contribute. He doesn't necessarily get the chance to do so, but he's just kind of there, and you don't get to see him all the time. And then when you do, it's like, oh shit, I forgot that Jake is employed. That's how I feel about Paul Ellering in WWE.
You know what? You know what partnership I really liked? Tully Blanchard with FTR. We didn't get enough.
Tully
of that.
Blanchard was involved. Like he was cutting promos for them on television. He was physically getting involved. So he was doing stuff, and Tully was really good in the role. Arn Anderson to a maybe a little lesser degree, but Arn would. I mean, obviously, right? Armed Anderson. That's where that whole promo comes from. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. Fucking Brandy. I see Brandy in the background. As soon as he talked about how I'm going to splatter this guy's guts all over the ground, Brandy's like, holy shit. So, like, he did that. He would take bumps. He fell off the stage that one time on Dynamite. So, they at least did stuff. But, like, Jake, Ellering, who's another one? Because I know Tony, he brought in some other people, too. And didn't really do anything with them. And I'm trying to remember who it was. But, so maybe it's just a nice thing where he wants to give him a job, give him a paycheck. That's cool. But like if you're going to be on TV, you can't just stand there and do nothing. You're not tapping into what these guys can really bring to the table. Like make use of them, do something with them. They're not doing anything.
Yeah, I would like to see Arn Anderson back on TV with Cody, but I don't think.
Well, he'd be like his Jose Lothario to Shawn Michaels in 1996.
Well, less cringy, I would say.
Yeah. I would hope so. Yeah. But you'll never have Triple H allowing Arn to go on TV and cut pull his Glock out and do one of his Armed Anderson promos.
Probably not, but it would definitely give Cody some ballsy attitude for sure.
You think at some point, all these people love talking about Cody going heel. As if it's actually going to happen anytime soon. I just laugh every time I see it. Yeah, let's take one of the top 2 baby faces in the entire company and probably their number 1 merch seller at the moment, and let's just turn him heel. Just because, let's just turn him heel. Like at least with John Cena, he was selling merch, but it just got to a point where it was like, all right, it's been so many years. Okay, yeah, I would like to see John Cena turn heel. I feel like we'll get to that point with Cody too, where I'm like just dying to just see this guy turn, but it's not happening anytime soon, just so you know. But when that time comes, would you be opposed to the idea of him? Because I feel like it would get him more heat if he brought Brandy in to be with him.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to see Cody as a heel. I don't see it happening unless they actually have someone who is ready to take that spot and be the next babyface that they need if they are going to make a transition to Cody being a heel, because they had that if they wanted to with Cena, because they were building Roman up to be a babyface. They didn't want to pull the trigger, which I'm sad that they didn't, because I would have loved to see that. It's like one of the biggest what ifs to me that they didn't do. But I don't think they don't have the resources right now to do that. I don't think they have a number 1 babyface to fill that role, because Roman's not going to be working house shows and Cody works every house show unless they have someone to fill in his shoes at every house show to sell those tickets. Even with the reduced schedule, I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah, and I think someone like Breakker could one day be that guy. It's too early for that right now. I could see Bron maybe being that person at some point.
Bron Breakker, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, I could see him being a top babyface, getting everybody to bark. It's already doing it now, Where all my dogs at, right? Everyone goes woof, woof, woof every single week. So, that'll be his calling card.
He'll get there. He's easily one of the best things about the program. But yes, we got the Bloodline. Jey Uso is going to cost the Bloodline the tag team championships, and the Bloodline Civil War is going to be off and running for sure. Wyatt 6 we mentioned. That's where we left off. How do you feel about this Final Testament Wyatt 6 storyline that's playing out on TV, Jason? Because what I said last night is Final Testament isn't the most exciting group in all of WWE. They're not exciting at all, if we're being honest. But I got to give Cross his flowers, because I think what Cross has been doing on television, it is very interesting. The way he carries himself, his body language, his facial expressions, the way he cuts a promo, the way he speaks. I really enjoy the work that he does, because if you guys pay attention to what he does on his YouTube channel and he does on social media, he's cutting these promos and these clips and these vignettes. He's really good at what he does. I don't think we see enough of that on Monday Night Raw. AOP, they're more like the silent killers. They're basically playing the same role that they played in Black and Gold. But they really haven't done anything substantial. And I think the last time they feuded with another faction was Bobby Lashley and the Prophets, the Pride, and that didn't really go anywhere. So it really didn't elicit any emotion or excitement. Now we got the Wyatt 6 thrown in here. Do you see anything different playing out here, Jason, compared to what they did with the Pride? Now we got the Wyatt 6. Are you going to be more interested because it's Bo Dallas and the Wyatts? Or you just don't give a shit whatsoever? I don't know.
Well, I'll sum it up like this. So what we have now is a faction that never loses against the faction that all they do is lose. And so, no, I am not interested in this. It's a natural direction for the Wyatt 6 because if not the final testament, then really it's just the Judgment Day. Like, what other options would there be for them to feud with right now? And I think we'll get that. We might get that after this. Maybe something with the Wyatt 6 and the Judgment Day. But yeah, I mean, the Wyatt 6, they need someone to work with. We haven't seen them since that street fight against American Made. How many weeks ago was that? This was their first appearance. I don't even remember the last time they were on Raw.
Got to be a month and a half at least, right?
And I don't think you need them on the show. I would not have them on the show every week. You do want to keep them special. And you don't do that by throwing them out there every single week. But there's got to be a happy medium where you don't let, a month and a half go by and you just don't hear from that. Well, I mean, they got those little QR code vignettes, but you don't see them. There's no real progress made, story-wise. So it's a natural story for them, and it gives them somebody to work with, and I presume someone to beat. But there's no drama there because we already know how it's going to play out, and the final testament's not over. And to talk about Cross, it's a weird thing with him because did you see the interview he did with Chris?
I did not watch it yet, no.
Okay. So I enjoy listening to Cross in those types of interviews. I think he's very engaging. I think he's a great storyteller. And I think he's got an interesting personality. These characters that he has been playing on WWE television now for the last few years, I just don't find them interesting. And I feel like it actually holds him back. What he's been doing lately is a little more interesting than what he was doing previously, but there's still not enough of it. You'll get the segment here and there. He's talking to the Miz in the back or whatever, but you still get that spooky kind of crap that they do with him. Like, that doesn't interest me. So yet I can listen to him outside, like off camera, outside the ring doing stuff like that, and I'm interested and I'm engaged. But I just can't bring myself to care, about a lot of what he's doing on TV. So unless there are real changes made, I feel like, to his character on TV, it doesn't work for me, And maybe because he's just been doing the same thing kind of for so long, I struggle to care. I feel like there really need to be major changes made to the way he's presented on TV to get me to care. And I don't think I'm the only one, because it's not like you see a whole lot of people excited to see the final testament when they come out every week. That's a problem. And I don't know why. Why would that excite people to see them wrestle the Wyatt 6? Do you think they're going to win?
No.
Do you think this is going to go any differently for them than any other program or feud they've been involved in? No. Like I said, it's the group that can't lose against the group that all they do is lose. What's so interesting about that?
I agree. I'm not excited for it. I am excited to see a stare down or a face-to-face or a promo back and forth between Bo Dallas and Karrion Kross. That's about it. I mean, outside that, I think it's going to end in the same way with the American Made. Like you said, they'll probably end in some big multi-man match, some hardcore match, 3-on-3, whatever the case may be.
Well, the good thing is Howdy was super over. When he came out last night, the crowd reacted big to him. So, and again, I think it helps not having him around every single week. But yeah, you don't want to let too much time go by and people forget about them.
Moving on with the rest of Raw, guys. The big thing that happened last night is Lillian Garcia is back full-time. Well, I guess full-time. I don't know. There was conflicting reports on that today, too. I don't know if it's going to be full-time because the last time I read, even before we went live tonight, was that WWE was still in the process of looking for a permanent replacement for Lillian Garcia. But she is back temporarily. We'll leave it at that. And Samantha Irvin is leaving WWE. There were even conflicting reports on her status. Some people were reporting that she quit, or she quit the company, or was released from the company, I would believe, is the report. And then I think Andrew Baydala and a couple others said that she had a contract up and she parted ways amicably. That was it. That was it for her.
Well, it was PW Insider that talked about it. And just to go back to Lillian for a second. So Lillian did this for a very long time. I mean, she debuted for them in '99. And
nostalgic is her voice.
Yes, but But the first thing that she does the first thing that she does when they have her on TV last night, and it just got to a point because there were 3 different times during the show, and I just thought, are they ribbing her? Like, is there like they're playing a joke on her? So the first thing she does is she announces it's a match in the #1 containers tournament, which I just laughed. I'm like, I'm just picturing this in my head now, like, different containers, like wrestling on TV. So I'm like, all right, whatever. She messed up. It happens. She hasn't, a little rusty, she hasn't done it in a while. Then later on, like Liv Morgan and Raquel come out and she announces that they're accompanied to the ring by Dirty Dom. And I'm looking for Dom and I don't see him anywhere. I'm like, nope, there's no Dom. He came out later on. So then later on, Rey Mysterio comes out with Dragon Lee, and she announces that they're accompanied to the ring by Zelina Vega, who was there, and by Joaquin Wilde and by Cruz del Toro. Did you see Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro last night? I didn't see him. Unless,
no, I did not see them.
Unless they're invisible. I didn't see them. So I'm like, are they playing a rib on this woman? I mean, obviously somebody didn't update the cue cards because I'm sure she was just reading off the cue cards.
Listen, man, she took detailed notes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, whoever took notes obviously didn't do a very good job. So that was a little bit of a rough first night back for her, but I don't know how quickly the turnaround was. Like, when did she get the phone call? That's what I want to know. Like, did she have enough advance notice to be able to prep for the show? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, Samantha Irvin tweeted out that she had given notice about a month ago. So WWE had a plan that they were going to get Lillian Garcia back. I think people went crazy over this. There was no way that Samantha got up and left the company that Monday, and then WWE was like, "Hey, Lillian, can you get on the first plane here to Philadelphia?"
No. But what I'm saying though, like, when did they make that decision that, okay, we're going to bring Lillian in? Was it 2 days before? Was it a week before? Like that, we don't know. We don't know how.
Wasn't there a cameo appearance for Lillian in the crowd? I think it was at a takeover. Well, not takeover. One of the NXT shows.
No. There was a cameo appearance on Raw several months ago, and I think she was in the ring, and Samantha introduced her.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember what the occasion was though, but yeah, I think it was earlier this year. So it's not like we haven't seen her in years. I just don't remember what the specific occasion was that they brought her back for that night.
Yeah, that's very telling. That's kind of eerie that it played out that way. They were in the ring that night, and then she is back assuming her role like it's 1999. But Samantha Irvin did leave the company. I'm not going to go over her entire message. If you guys want, you can go find that on her Twitter and on her social media. She did thank Michael PSAs, Paul Heyman, Michael Cole, Triple H, and everybody in every department that WWE has. And there was a report from Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp on this situation, and they said sources would be shocked if AEW didn't try to bring her in for All Elite Wrestling. Now, I know Ricochet went out there and tweeted that she's not coming to AEW, but I mean, that's just the MO. Of course, he's going to say that. What the fuck is he going to say? Yeah, my fiance's coming on in, man. She'll be on Collision next Saturday. No, it's not going to happen.
No, but he can just say nothing.
He could say nothing, yes.
He could just say nothing, but he chose to specifically say she's not coming to AEW.
Which is a red flag.
I don't think she's coming to AEW. I don't think she's coming in. I think, and there are already reports about this, and I believe them, that she has interest in outside projects.
Yes.
And the latest reports from the Observer and some other places are that she was negotiating with WWE and talking to WWE for months about being able to do outside things, especially in regards, I think, to music, and they just couldn't come to an understanding. And so she decided to walk away because, especially, she has a musical background. This is a woman who, from the age of 4, was learning classical music. Like, that's her first love. And you hear her voice. Obviously, she's got a tremendous voice. So I believe that she wanted to do things outside of WWE that her schedule alone wouldn't allow her to do. And maybe it would take her away and they didn't want her away, which I think is ridiculous. Like, if the situation is that she wanted to take time off here and there to do some outside projects, you mean to tell me that you're willing to walk away from this woman? Like, because they had to know if they said no, that she might leave. So you're willing to run that risk and let her walk instead of working out an arrangement where, okay, she has to miss a Raw here and there. It's not like they don't have other people who can step in, whether it's Alicia Taylor or Mike Rome or somebody else that they have already in-house. They don't even have to look outside to Lillian or anybody else.
Those are two very good I mean, they're not Samantha Irvin, but they're two very good voices. I think Mike Rome does a great job. And Alicia Taylor does a great job.
Yeah, Mike Rome does a great job. So you mean to tell me that you're willing to just let her walk away and make her unhappy and basically put her in a situation where she has to decide, I either stay or I leave, instead of just letting her go, here and there, do stuff outside, and just have somebody else step up and say, okay, this week Samantha's not going to be here. I find that ridiculous. I mean, that you would let somebody like that walk away. If in fact she didn't want to leave but felt like she had no choice, I think that's ridiculous. That's a huge miss on Triple H and WWE's part.
Yeah, like Jason said, Fightful and PW Insider reported that Irving was not released from the company. She resigned. Wrestling Observer Radio noted that she's been thinking about it for a year. Brian Alvarez went on to say she's got some outside projects she wants to do. Apparently, she could come to terms with how it worked with WWE, and then she is no longer with the company. I do know that she sang the national anthem for the Raiders and Steelers game in Las Vegas this past weekend. So obviously she is big into music, and she might want to pursue outside musical projects. Some people were saying maybe she wants to settle down and have a family with Ricochet. God bless her in that certain aspect.
I mean, that's just.
I mean, those are people speculating.
Those are. Those are the same people. Did you see the social media post that Ricochet was getting?
Yes.
As soon as the announcement was made that she had left, and then and so you have these accounts and they go on and they're just going after Ricochet. This
How
bald
could
bitch.
you, man? I hate you, man.
Yes, this bald bitch. She chased her away from WWE.
How could you take her from my Fed?
Yeah, it's all his fault. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, this is the kind of just absolute insanity that you see. And look, there was a story today. Adam Cole. Okay, he talked to Sports Illustrated. God. And Adam Cole finally, because it's been rumored for a while, and I don't even get into that stuff because that's just personal and I don't care. But he commented and said, yes, it is true that he and Britt Baker are no longer romantically involved. He goes, we're still on great terms. She's one of my best friends. I wish her all the best. It wasn't like there's no animus between them, but they are no longer boyfriend and girlfriend. And because when those rumors started popping up, right, people were going after Britt. I think Britt more than Adam. Oh, she cheated on him, and she's a this and she's a that. And I don't know where that came from. Again, I'm not getting into that. But the people were just going absolutely nuts on social media and stalkerish. And it's like frightening that these people feel like they know everything there is to know. Obviously, she must have cheated on him, and or this must have happened. I'm like, you don't know shit.
No.
Like, what are you even talking about?
It's like that Brit's fucking next door neighbor, and they seen it all happen.
Like they got the fucking binoculars and stuff. Like they're looking out their window.
They're fucking Joe Swanson on Family Guy looking through the fucking window, man.
yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous.
Listen, that we're not even going to touch that story. Listen, I love Adam Cole. I wish him nothing but the best. I wish Britt nothing but the best. Shit happens, man. If you're a fucking real life individual and you're off social media and you know other people, you're going to get into relationships. You're going to break up. You're going to fucking meet new people. It is what it is. So I wish them nothing but the best. As far as this situation with Samantha Irvin, my question to you, Jason, was you mentioned a little bit of it before, how WWE couldn't kind of settle on something for her to maybe miss a show here, miss a show there. Why would they just let her walk and not come to an agreement on anything? Do you see, I probably know your answer before I even ask the question, but do you see WWE kind of reworking certain situations with certain talent to a point where it doesn't happen again in this current situation? Because losing someone like Samantha Irvin and not working with her on something so stupid and something so easy to work on somebody with, to let her go, do you think WWE is going to work with talents now moving forward so that they don't lose another top-tier talent like Samantha Irvin? Or is this something that they're just going to continue doing because they're WWE and they don't allow anybody to do anything?
No, I don't know that it's going to really change anything. I mean, I would think that they had to know there was a chance this was going to happen. So they obviously have their policy on these things. Again, I just look at it and go, look, we don't know what she was asking for. We don't know exactly what these projects may or may not have been that she wanted to do. So we have to just say that up front. We don't have all the details. But if that is the gist of what was going on here, I look at it and go, she is good. You mentioned she did the national anthem at the NFL game.
Yeah.
If she's going to go out there here and there, and she's going to get these gigs and do these projects, to me, if she's still working with WWE, that only helps WWE. Like, it enhances them that you have someone like that works for you. You have somebody like that under contract who gets to go out there and they get that visibility, and then they get to be back on Monday Night Raw having that added visibility. I see that as a benefit to the company. So unless she was asking for things that were just completely unreasonable, again, I think it was a real misfire on their part. I'd like to think they'll be more sensitive to these things going forward. I don't know what kind of deal she had relative to the average talent. You know, it's not like she was a wrestler. So, you know, does she have an employee contract, and how different was her deal than maybe the average talent we see on TV in WWE? I don't know. Is there a non-compete? I don't think so. I know she doesn't, that's not her name. Like, that name she won't be able to use.
Yeah.
So that I know. She won't be able to be Samantha Irvin outside, just like Renee had it, you know, she's Renee Paquette. She's not Renee Young anymore.
Yeah.
I don't really see that being a big deal. I don't think that's going to hold her back. But I just think it's a real loss for them. I mean, look, it's not like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Right? The company's on fire right now. So Samantha Irvin's not there. It's a loss, but the machine goes on. It's not going to hurt their business at all. But I do think it's a loss for them. You know, again, she had the great voice, and even the way she announced certain talents, Chelsea Green being one of them, it just added personality to a lot of these introductions and these entrances. And I do think that she'll be missed. And I think that wherever she lands next, whatever she chooses to do, I wish her all the best, and I think she's going to kill it, and I think she's going to excel. But I really don't think that she's just going to walk into AEW. I really don't. I can't sit here and tell you that 3 years from now she won't work for Tony Khan. But do I think that she's going to just 6 months from now be doing ring announcing in AEW? I don't. I think she has other interests.
Well, Fightful, they immediately asked sources within AEW about potential of bringing her in. We did not get any answers, says Fightful. Numerous sources we spoke to in WWE and AEW said that they would be shocked if an attempt wasn't made. Now, Ricochet obviously joined AEW in August, and despite leaving some in the company surprised by the announcement that she left, there were many others that we spoke to who expected her to make her exit after Ricochet did, noting the ease of schedule on their family. It's important to note that Samantha has not mentioned what her motivations for leaving were. Obviously, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer talked about it. We didn't hear it from her mouth per se. It was all speculation, so that's what the community is running on. But I did bring this up, Jason. I want to get your thoughts on this because I mentioned this last night on my Raw post show. We don't know. Like, obviously, everybody's thinking that she's going to go to AEW. Ricochet's there. I think that's the natural thing for people to feel. But with the rumors and the news of AEW getting a Fox show on FS1, on Fox, Shockwave, Tony's going to need to make that show feel much different than Collision and much different than Rampage. And if
More Ranallo.
Yes, I said that as well. I think the masked man needs to go away. He needs to bring out the checks and make them blank and have more of a fucking I mean,
how great was it to hear his voice again on those Maple Leaf shows?
I thought those shows were fantastic. I think Scott D'Amore's got a winner there. But yes, I would absolutely bring Morrow on to be the voice of Shockwave. But where I'm going with this is he's going to need to make it feel different than everything else that he's doing, and it needs to be important if it's going to be on Fox. Is that his new voice for Shockwave? Do you see her coming on in and being on that show per se specifically? What do you think?
No, I don't see her going to AEW right now. I think that she really does have other aspirations, probably tied into music in some way. I mean, could she make a special appearance? Yeah, I could see her making maybe a special appearance for a big event, but do I think that she's just going to go leave WWE and go to another wrestling company and just do announcing there? I don't. Now, I could be wrong if it's a case where she wants to maintain ties to wrestling, but still have the freedom to do outside gigs. Maybe Tony Khan provides that opportunity to her. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe she does end up becoming, like on a regular basis, a ring announcer for AEW. But I really do think that she is going to end up doing something completely different that maybe we're not even talking about or thinking of. And then the wrestling stuff, if she goes back to it, would be further down the road.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting development, guys. Whatever the case may be, we wish her nothing but the best. She was great. I know Jason mentioned before, and I also mentioned, I mentioned this last night on my show as well. Howard Finkel's the greatest of all time, and the short amount of time that Samantha Irvin has been doing the ring announcing on the main roster, she's made such an impact and has made such a difference in the presentation of everything you've seen over the last couple of years to really make it stand out and really make it feel epic. People are already talking about her being the second greatest ring announcer in WWE history underneath Howard Finkel, who will always and forever be the greatest ever. But Jason mentioned earlier in the show that Michael Buffer is very adamant and very fond of Samantha Irvin, and he is one of the greatest of all time as well. Bruce Buffer is another one who's out there doing his thing for UFC. She's made such an impact that she's already in discussion in such a short time with these other names. How amazing is that? It's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I mean, and she kind of came out of nowhere too. And she's great. She's just great at what she does. And it's weird because some people don't like her style of announcing and they think she overdoes it. And, look, I mean, she definitely puts her heart and soul into it. Sometimes they'll put the camera on her and you can just see like she's summoning, all of her energy from within and puts it into these announcements.
Now, she was crying when Cody won the championship.
Well, I was going to say, that's one thing I won't forget is at WrestleMania this year. Like you could hear it in her voice. Yeah. Like her voice was cracking when she was. And so, by the way, so was Michael Cole and Corey Graves. So she made that announcement that Cody, won the championship, and then you could also hear it in their voices too. So that was like a big emotional moment and a lot of them know Cody and they work with him, and so I'm sure for them it meant something as well. So that's one of those moments that sticks out of my mind, like listening to her voice crack. Because she really did, like, there were times where she'd be sitting there in the timekeepers area and you would see these clips on social media where she didn't know that there was like a big spot. Maybe somebody was going to go through a table, the announce table or something, but like they would film her reaction. And her reaction, it was like she was a fan, it would be like filming the reaction of somebody in the crowd who thought it was real and they didn't know what was about to happen.
Yeah.
But she's been a fan. She's been a fan for many years, and you could see it. So there was kind of a charm to it, I guess, in a way.
Someone in the chat asked, JD, what about David Penzer? I wasn't a WCW guy, but I enjoyed David Penzer's work. I thought he had a great voice.
Yeah, David Penzer was good. Gary Michael Capetta was another one. I mean, there have been some really good ring announcers, and nobody showing love to Chimmel in the chat.
No, Tony Chimmel was all right. I mean, what made him was that rated R superstar.
Rated R superstar. Yeah.
So
that did you see the clip that was floating around social media a few weeks ago? It was from like 2002 or 2003, where the t-shirt guy shot the gun into his crotch.
No.
Oh, he got so angry. You got to find this clip. It's awesome. Like it was from I don't know what it was. They had these satellite feeds back in the day where you could see footage of the show before they went on the air and then after the show was over. And they're in the ring, and the t-shirt guy, he shoots it right into his crotch. And he's standing like right next to him too. And he gets so angry. And what happened was it was Vince. I think Vince was probably telling the guy, "Oh, it'll be funny if you shoot him in the dick." So he did. And like the New Jersey came out of Chimmel. And he throws he's throwing shit into the crowd, and you could see him, he's mouthing off like, motherfucking son of a fuck. And he goes out of the ring, and the camera guy's standing right there. And he morphed from Tony Chimmel into Tony Soprano in the span of like 3 seconds. And he's like, "I'm gonna take that t-shirt gun and stick it up your fucking ass if you do it to me again." I'm like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? I'm like, this is awesome. He was and Taz is like, he's stifling his laughter in the background. That's like my new favorite Tony Chimmel moment. Now,
This is on X?
Yeah.
I gotta search this then after the show's over.
X, YouTube, whatever. Like, just type in like Tony Chimmel snaps or Tony Chimmel t-shirt gun or whatever. It should be the first thing that comes up.
Interesting. I always enjoy a good Sopranos reference in regards to anybody, man. I like it.
Oh my god, dude! You like there was no mistaking where this man is from. If like in that moment he just morphed and he was like, "You're gonna be sleeping with," he would have fit into Tony D's factor. He could have been right. He could have been right there with him. Like Jericho had Ralphus, Tony D could have had Tony Chimmel.
Where do we want to go now? I got some other stories here, but we talked about Lesnar last week, right? Lesnar's not coming back. I think the only thing that we want to talk about as far as Lesnar is, I think Booker T mentioned something about Brock Lesnar being a game changer if he came back to television. I don't know if he'd be a game changer, but the only thing I would want to see Lesnar do back on television is either Bron Breakker, Gunther, or a John Cena one-on-one match during his retirement tour. But I think we'll refrain talking about Lesnar because he's not really factoring into anything. And I know Sat put out a follow-up story to all the rumors of Brock Lesnar last week, so we'll keep it at that. Lesnar's not going to be factored into anything going into WrestleMania as of right now. What else do we have here? I know there was...
Well, I was going to bring up Dynamite from Wednesday.
I got that. What about the Zilla? You want to talk about the Zilla story with Booker T?
Well, let's. All right. Yeah, you may have the quote there. Okay, you want to bring it up?
Yeah, Booker T said that I'm definitely going to try to get Zilla Fatu all the way to WWE. So he's got to lose that Crown Jewel Championship first, the HOG Crown Jewel Championship, because he's
getting into our business here with these comments. You know, Zilla's been on a tear. In House of Glory, establishing himself, he's got the real Crown Jewel Championship. He just defended it against. I'll call him Enzo because if I say real one, I feel like 80% of the people are not going to. You know, I
gotta be honest with you. It was very difficult for me not to call him Enzo on commentary.
Well, because that's what he is. I mean, that's what he's known for, and that's where he got his greatest notoriety. So, and how many people know him as real one? Not too many people.
Not too many people, though.
Yeah, not too many people. So he just beat him last Friday at the NYC Arena. And he's coming along. Again, Zilla is still in the infancy of his career. I mean, he's had barely 30 total matches in his entire career. You could see the improvement each time out. Fans are into him.
The way he carries himself. He comes up to the commentary desk. He shakes everybody's hand.
Yeah. Called me Oos, which was kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm an Oos. So I'm an honorary Oos.
There you go.
So he's doing his thing in Hog and a few other indies as well. I know he's not working with GCW anymore. Booker obviously looking out for his guy because he helped train him, right? He's out of Reality of Wrestling. So it makes sense that Booker would look out for him and would try to help him in any way that he could. And look, I think it's inevitable that at some point he is going to be part of this. Because this Bloodline story is not ending with War Games.
No.
Right? It's not ending at WrestleMania next year. They could carry this Bloodline on for another few years if they want to. And I'm sure at some point Zilla will be a part of it. I just think all this talk about it, though, is just premature.
It is very premature. And Booker T mentioned, and I quote, Zilla's one of my students. He started with Reality of Wrestling over a year ago. Of course, he and I had our differences. He left and came back. One thing about this business is you got to grow. When you're a young man, sometimes you got to take hard knocks. You got to go through bumps on the road. I wish it could be a whole lot smoother, of course. Zilla had an incident with GCW. I'm not sure exactly what the full details are. One side says one thing, and the other side says another. My thing is we concentrate on Reality of Wrestling, and our thing is I can think about anything other than trying to get that young man, Zilla, because he's talent, get him to the next level. The next level, for me, for Zilla, is WWE. That is his landing zone. That's his safe zone, the WWE and his family. I really believe that. Now, Jason, he's only 25 years old. I understand that a lot of people have very high aspirations for him, the way he carries himself, like you just mentioned. He gets better each and every time in the ring. I haven't really seen him make too many mistakes at 25 years old, and we've called, I think, enough matches to see more than enough for Zilla Fatu. But at 25 years old, man, he could benefit from, traveling to different cities and being on the road, doing things for himself and really learning from everybody that you can on the indies before jumping to WWE and becoming so much more of the dynamic performer that we know that he is compared to what he is now. Imagine 2 years from now how good he's going to be. Then he joins the WWE system. He'll be so far ahead of some of the people there. He may be fast tracking himself to get to where he needs to be a lot quicker. So, like you said, man, premature. I don't know what the rush is.
Yeah, and I like the idea of him, and not even just in House of Glory, but just being able to work in these different territories, if you will, and these different promotions, and learning, but just working with different opponents before he ends up in their system. Because again, I think it's inevitable he'll end up in that system. And maybe he'll be at the PC. Maybe he'll start with NXT first. Like, I don't know exactly what path his future will take when he does ultimately make it to WWE. I think it's inevitable. As long as he keeps on the path he's on now, there's no reason to think he won't end up there. I just think that that's still a little ways away.
It's going to happen, though, and we're excited for him when it does happen. It's inevitable that it's going to happen for him. Dynamite. Let's shift gears over to AEW. Dynamite had their Fallout show on Wednesday for Wrestle Dream, and it wasn't the worst Dynamite that I've ever seen. But man, oh man, did they come out and what's a good explanation? What's a good comparison, man? It's almost as if they should have came out shooting fucking rocket launchers off, and they came out shooting Nerf missiles, man. It's like I feel like they dropped the ball on several different aspects, though. Like I said, I don't think it was a terrible show. Shelton Benjamin looked great on Wednesday, and I was excited to see Jay White, Christian Cage. That felt flat. Top Flight and Dark Order. We'll get into that. The Danielson thing should have been.
With the main event, it was embarrassing what happened there. Where
Adam Page had a.
Not even that. Like, Christian's crouching down in the corner, and all of a sudden Kip Sabian jumps up on the apron, but he jumped the gun.
Yeah.
I guess the cue was like when he crouches in the corner for the spear, he jumps up on the apron, but I guess because he did it again later, and then they kind of picked up and everything picked up where it was supposed to go. But I guess he just thought, that's my cue. And then Christian's like yelling at him, not yet, not yet. And then the camera shows him going back into the crowd and calmly sitting down like, oh, I'm sorry. And he sits down in the chair. Like, okay,
don't they have producers for this shit?
Why would they show that? Like, why would they show him going back to his seat? I don't understand that. So that's bad enough, right? But then Hangman's like, oh shit, I guess we're doing this. And Hangman hits the ring. And then he's kind of looking, and I think he realizes what's going on, and he has the presence of mind to like slowly crouch down. And then the camera cuts to him, and he's laying on the ground, and he's got that look, he's got that look on his face, and he's just laying there, which I thought was fucking hilarious, like just the look on his face. And he just laid there for 5 minutes until they finally picked up with what the. Well, they
weren't shy away from shooting his face either. It's like, what the fuck are you showing him for? He's not even supposed to be in the match yet.
At least that, though, you could try to explain it like, oh shit, Hangman's here and now he's hiding, he's lying in wait for the right moment, but at least you could explain that. I just don't understand why the hell they shot Kip Sabian going back to his seat to take a seat. Like that to me was just hilarious. So that was a match I was looking forward to also. And that unfortunately that did not deliver. But I just want to tell you the thing that I thought was the biggest misfire and the biggest missed opportunity, and I couldn't understand it. So maybe you can help me make sense of this. Probably not, but let's give it a shot. At Wrestle Dream, Bryan Danielson got beat, and he lost the championship to Jon Moxley, which means that his full-time career in wrestling is over. Now, you would think this would be the biggest thing in the world, right? Holy shit, he lost. That's it. He's done. Why did they not make a bigger deal about this on the show? It was barely referenced. You would think that maybe there would be like almost like a video tribute package to him, where you would have a cut back to the announcers and somber and everything, just kind of thanking Danielson for all of his contributions. We don't know when or even if.
Bro, or Tony Khan coming out and giving some like somber statement about the fucking horrible acts from the Blackpool Combat Club about what they did to their champion. Like,
well, I would rather not have Tony Khan coming out and cutting promos. I don't know if he has a somber voice. I think he's got one volume, but that to me was like I couldn't believe this. Like, they have been building up Danielson, his whole story and he won the championship. It was a great moment at the end of All In. Him and his family celebrating in the ring to Final Countdown. Like that was great. And he said that my full-time career is going to be over as soon as I lose my next match, or as soon as I lose the championship. But you would think that the minute that happened, that should have been the number one story on that show on Wednesday night. That, and of course the injury angle where he got his neck broken basically in the middle of the ring. And that's the thing. Like when you have something major like that happens, they don't do a good enough job of just building that up to be like, holy shit, this big moment just took place on the pay-per-view on Saturday that you should have seen. And then again, whether it's a video, like almost like a tribute video, or having the announcers go on screen, or having other wrestlers on the show make reference to it in their promos, they just don't do a good enough job of making the big moments seem big enough. And it just felt totally glossed over. It felt like a missed opportunity. Like we know at some point Bryan will probably be back, but it's probably not going to be for a very long time. Like he's done for now. And that's the story I think that you want to communicate to people who may have tuned into Dynamite 7 days earlier and they saw Bryan Danielson on the show and now he's not. And they're thinking maybe they didn't see WrestleDream and they're like, well, what happened here? It's almost like you would never know if you tuned into the show and you didn't see the pay-per-view. It blew my mind, and listen, I thought they really dropped the ball on it.
I agree. I said the same exact thing on Wednesday with Jesse, and people were clipping me out of context. Oh, well, they did show Bryan Danielson. John Moxley cut a promo at the beginning of the show, and you saw clips of Danielson being stretched out. That's not what we're talking about. We weren't talking about that. We need
making moments feel.
Yes.
It's making moments. Yes, they did the promo at the beginning of the show with that very creepy music in the background, and that was well done. Fine. That's not what we're talking about here. It's the constantly going back to it and mentioning it, and having kind of almost like a story thread throughout the entire show where you're making references to it. Like that should have been the biggest story of the night, the end, the fall of Bryan Danielson. This could be it. We may never see him back in the ring again after what these guys did to him. And it was just, it felt glossed over.
Yep.
It just felt like, all right, on to the next.
And
I just don't understand.
What was the last image we saw at WrestleDream? Darby and who was it? Orange Cassidy sitting on the floor,
Garcia.
and Garcia.
Yeah.
Did we hear anything from them at all in regards to that segment during the show? We didn't hear not one fucking peep.
No, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, you had Cassidy, you had Garcia, Hook was there as well. Darby wasn't even on the show. So Ospreay wasn't there, Darby wasn't there. There were some names that were missing, and they weren't even there. But that's what I'm talking about. Like Daniel Garcia was on the show, Private Party was on the show. They should have been in the back. Like, and again, whether you want them to be angry or somber, whatever tone you want them to strike, but like it should have been something that was on everybody's mind and was being talked about, and it wasn't. And I just don't understand why you would gloss over something like that when it should be the top story of the night on that first show coming out of WrestleDream. That should have been the biggest thing, and it wasn't.
No, I agree. Yes, Jeff Jarrett was there too. He was bleeding. We didn't see Jeff Jarrett on the show either. So yeah, they dropped the ball on that. It did not feel big at all. They do a piss poor job of really kind of connecting the pieces to really make it feel special and epic and tell a really nice, long, drawn-out story. They don't care, and I did take immediate notice of that, and I do agree. And then the first thing that we get is Adam Cole, which I think everybody was excited to hear his explanation from his return on that Saturday at WrestleDream. And Adam Cole comes back, and he cuts a promo, and everybody was excited to hear his explanation about why he's back and why he's targeting MJF, and even that fell flat. And like Jason alluded to a week ago, because we discussed this last week and we were all anticipating, well, what is he going to say? Why doesn't it make sense right now? I think it even makes less sense coming out of Wednesday's show than it did at WrestleDream. And the one thing that Jason talked about was he's got to mention the injury. That's going to be the one thing that kind of ties everything together and really kind of say, all right, Adam Cole, he was out for a year. He broke his ankle to help MJF against Samoa Joe, and he basically had the worst injury of his entire career thanks to helping MJF. And now that would have been the turning point as to why Cole is now back babyface and MJF is a heel. Jason, what they did on Wednesday, Adam Cole said, word for word, You know, I don't want to talk about my injury. I don't think people want to hear about my ankle injury. Yes, I do, actually. I want to hear about your ankle injury.
Oh, really?
The fuck are you talking about? Who said that? Who said that? I mean, so then he goes on and says, I hate MJF. He's fake. I hate your stupid hair. I hate your stupid face. I hate that I have to share a locker room. Like, what am I watching here? Am I watching an 8th grader get into a fucking verbal argument with somebody in the school grounds? Come on, bro. Holy shit. Awful, man.
This is a man who, again, he lost over a year of his career, and he was all in on this whole friendship, this whole relationship, you know, with MJF. He came out there to show his support. Ended up, yeah, I mean, he did it to himself, but again, the whole reason he ran out there was to show his support, right, for his friend who was in there against Samoa Joe. So yeah, to kind of gloss over it and say, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear about it. Like, actually, that's like the number one thing I was waiting to hear. So that's when I kind of knew this was going off the rails. And I think, you know, part of the idea here is they had to pivot away because the story as it was originally presented didn't work, because they both got hurt and the storyline completely fell apart. Right? The whole Undisputed Kingdom completely fell apart. It shit the bed. And they know it. And there's no point in going back and trying to revive it and trying to resuscitate it. I wouldn't do that. So this is them just kind of like, all right, look, well, we're going to just pretend some of that never happened and we're going to ignore it. And we're just going to go in a different direction with this. And it's like, all right, I hate MJF. He's fake. He's phony. And I guess he was never truly, I guess the story is like he was never truly interested in being friends with me. Or I don't know. I mean, they already lost me with this first promo. Maybe they can get things back on track. But it does feel like they're just kind of like, all right, look, this didn't work. We got to, some of that stuff we just got to ignore and pretend like it never happened. And maybe it's for the better. But I just think it was a really weak explanation, like you said. And there were things that could have been said that would have made it a little bit better. Not totally better, but a little bit better. And they didn't do it. So that was disappointing.
No, and MJF actually did show up on a video screen drinking wine at home. And he said there's a lot of jackals in pro wrestling. When you're on top, they chew you up and spit you out. Something MJF promised he would never let happen again until Adam Cole came into his life. Cole backstabbed him and left a void in him that he will never let MJF trust again. It's not MJF's fault he's like this. It's Cole's fault. MJF knows Cole wants revenge, but it's not like it's ever going to happen, so he'll keep dangling the carrot, leaving Cole with a void, something that he can thank MJF for later. Jason, I said this on Wednesday with Jesse. I actually feel more so bad for MJF than I do Adam Cole, and MJF is the heel. It's like, I'm looking at it from a completely different point of view. I feel bad for MJF, not Adam Cole. Adam Cole's the babyface. I don't know, man.
Well, then I guess you'll be cheering for MJF in the feud, I guess, going forward.
I guess so.
I guess so.
But yeah, that was dropped big time. I don't know.
Yeah. But like you said at the beginning, though, of the review here, the thing I thought was the strongest and that I liked the most was Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah.
And his debut, I thought Leo Rush was just the perfect opponent for him. I don't think I've ever seen Shelton in a match anywhere where he just looked like an absolute monster. And the way that he was throwing this guy around, and he had that step-up knee from, like, he was on the floor, and he did a step-up knee from the apron and blasted him with it. Just everything in that match has made him out to look absolutely just monstrous. And that was his first match. And now he's got the match officially he's got a match on Dynamite tomorrow, right? He's going to be in action against, who's he wrestling?
Sammy Guevara.
And they had a video package, I think it was on Collision, where Sammy had a photo that he shared when he met Shelton many years ago. So he's like always been a fan of his, and, you know, the best against the best. And so Shelton's wrestling Sammy tomorrow, which will be a different kind of match. And then next week, we already know Shelton is wrestling Swerve. So I like this because A, his debut kicked ass, number one. Number two, his first 3 weeks, he's involved in 3 different matches. And I think it's very important when you debut somebody new, and this has been a problem with some people in AEW before. If you don't get them consistent television time, they could be easily forgotten about. That may be what ends up happening with Shelton. We'll see. Once Bobby Lashley comes in, I'm sure he'll fall to the background. But for his first 3 weeks, they got him in the ring in 3 different matches, including a big one with Swerve next week. So I think that so far so good with Shelton. And I really enjoyed his debut. And I like the pairing, of him and MVP. It's just a matter now of when do they introduce Lashley. I'm thinking next week. I think on that Halloween show they're doing next week, I think that might be where we see Bobby make his debut.
Yeah, I think if they're going Swerve and Shelton are ready for that Fright Night Dynamite, I think we do get Bobby Lashley, and that's the pay-per-view match at Full Gear. Swerve versus Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have nothing bad to say about what they did with Shelton and that whole storyline on Wednesday. I thought it was great.
You didn't think it went too long? The match?
If I had one critique, I would have. Yeah, I mean, I would have made it a little bit shorter. Yeah. It wasn't like it was an egregious mistake. Because it was like a prolonged mauling. It was almost like an animal just toying with its prey.
Yeah.
Could you have shaved off 5 minutes? Did he need to go, what was it, 11 minutes?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, it didn't need 11 minutes. I would have shortened it up a little bit, but it's a minor critique.
He showed what the AEW audience is getting in Shelton Benjamin. He did very good for himself, and yeah, so far so good for his debut. Top Flight and Dark Order. They battled for the right to defend AEW coming out of Wrestle Dream. After we got Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, Hook, Private Party, Danny Garcia, not mentioning a fucking word about anything that happened here. We got Dark Order and Top Flight coming in there like the Power Rangers and trying to save the day. Jason, we talked about Adam Cole and MJF and that storyline kind of falling on deaf ears. I mean, did they even think this out on what fans might be thinking? This is actually what got me into a little bit of hot water this past weekend, man. I don't understand. I really don't understand how you can come out of the pay-per-view and then as a fan look at this and say, yeah, man, I believe in these guys. This is exactly who I want to see fighting for the right of AEW. I mean, Top Flight has been delegated to fucking Rampage. And I don't even remember when the Dark Order was last on television in a meaningful way. It's probably when Brody was still around. I mean, what are they doing with this? I mean, what was your immediate reaction when you saw this? I'm like, Jesus, these guys are fucking losers. I mean, they're going to get chewed up and spit out by the Blackpool Combat Club. And then what happens? And then Jesse's arguing with me back and forth about this on social on Dynamite, my post show last week. We're going back and forth. It's like, where's everybody else that's defending the right? Where's Will Ospreay? Where's some of the major names here, man? It's like, what's going on? What was your immediate reaction to these guys?
What was he arguing? What was he arguing?
No, we were yelling back and forth. Like, where's the star power for this storyline? It's like, yeah. And I know what you said because I listened to your clip that you think that maybe the bottom of the fucking barrel storyline progression here. Maybe this is all leading to the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't listen, man. I don't know where you're getting that shit from. You can keep that.
I didn't say that I wanted it. I just said the thought occurred to me because the one little twist or wrinkle in the story was the Elite standing out there on the ramp and they're not lifting a finger to help. The guys are getting slaughtered in the ring, and the Bucks and Okada, they're just standing there watching. And the thought occurred to me that what if they're building this to a point where the Elite have to step in, or they have a change of heart or whatever, and they step in to help be the saviors of AEW. I hate the idea, but it was just an idea. Watching them, I said, is this going somewhere? Are they secretly in cahoots with the Blackpool Combat Club?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Think they are. I don't think they are, but yes, I wouldn't be surprised either, I guess. So no, that was just a thought. I don't want to see that happen. I think that would be awful. I mean, my first impression was probably the same as yours in that I'm watching this and I know they don't want to give everything away in the first week. So week 1 here, Moxley just won the belt, and you're not going to have Omega, and you're not going to have Ospreay. You're not going to have, like, all your top guys are not going to band together in week 1. I would think that they will slowly build to that. I mean, there's even talk that Kenny could be back in 2 months, but then again, Kenny will be involved with the Elite.
Yeah.
So I don't see him being involved with this. But again, you would think, given what happened, I keep going back to this, given what happened to Bryan Danielson, who's so beloved and respected in this company, and these men didn't just beat him, they tried to kill him for the second time, by the way. They tried to smother him with a plastic bag. You would think that after everything we saw at Wrestle Dream, that there would be more than just Evil Uno and
John Silver,
Isaiah Cassidy stepping up to come to the defense of AEW in this situation. And so it had no teeth to it. Like you would hope they had something big planned for this first Dynamite coming out of Wrestle Dream, and you see who's out there, and you realize like, okay, these guys are fucked, and maybe that's the point. They want you to think that AEW is fucked. Now, on Collision, they had Collision and Battle of the Belts, which apparently I think did its lowest rating in the history of Battle of the Belts, which I don't know why anybody is surprised by that. But they basically knocked those guys off, right? Top Flight, Dark Order, they got their asses kicked. So my hope is that it was just a 1 week thing. Like, that's it, right? They stood up on Wednesday, they got their asses kicked on Saturday, and now it's on to the next.
Well, maybe they heard us complain.
Yeah, right. So, well, taking advice from you. So on Wednesday, we'll see who the next, I guess, kind of list of victims is going to be. I would like to think that Darby will be back on the show, but they're not really building the story around Darby right now. They seem to be building it around Orange Cassidy. And it goes back to Wrestle Dream when Jerry Lynn walked up to him and said, I think you could be the guy. If you just committed yourself, if you tried and put the effort in, I think you could be the guy. And now the story seems to be he doesn't consider himself to be a leader, right? Because Daniel Garcia and Private Party, they wanted him to lead them. And he's like, nah, I don't, Every time I've wrestled these guys, it's changed me. Because they pointed out that he has a win over every member of the BCC, including Moxley. And he goes, nah, I'm not a leader. I'm not your guy.
Well, didn't he see those guys get beat up and he didn't do anything to help them on Collision? Or Battle?
Well, that was later on.
Okay.
Yeah, that was later on. That was in the back. And then later on, he came out and he just stood there. Okay. And they were in the ring fighting and he just stood there and then he turned around and he walked to the back. So it seems like they're going to go with Cassidy first. He'll come to his senses at some point, and they're probably going to go with him first against Moxley, and then maybe they'll go to Darby. I don't think it's a totally awful idea for them to want to try to get over Daniel Garcia and Private Party and Orange Cassidy, who's already over to their audience, but try to get these guys over, right? These originals. It's not a bad idea in concept. The problem is none of them are over at a level that I think most people would look and actually buy into them as being the savior of AEW. Nobody is going to look at this crew of guys and be inspired. Like, if you look at similar angles that have been done in like other promotions for years, I mean, we've seen this type of angle play out so many times. When you look at the crew here, are there any stars? Does anybody jump out to you as like a real star?
No, Jason. The answer is no. I mean, it goes from neglect as well. For years, Private Party's been losers. Like, we love Private Party, but they haven't been booked good at all. Like, why am I to believe in them? Orange Cassidy,
and they lost
the Wrestle Dream. Orange Cassidy. I think Orange Cassidy's a very good pro wrestler. I've said that time and time again, and I've got flack for it. Which people have. If you think Orange Cassidy's a bad wrestler, then that's your problem. He's not a bad wrestler, but he is a little bit overexposed, wouldn't you say? I mean, Tony Khan uses him, and it's a running joke between me and Jesse. Most of the time, when you start Dynamite, it's Orange Cassidy, the first thing you see. It's like he's a little overexposed to a point where I think, maybe we should scale that back a little bit.
Yeah, but I can't help but look at this crew, like even Daniel Garcia, who they just re-signed, and I think he'll end up as TNT champion, and that's honestly at about the level I think he should be at. I don't look at Daniel Garcia and think to myself, okay, this is going to be the guy. I just don't. Darby is the one who I think ultimately will probably end up with the belt, and he's been there since day one, and people love Darby, and I could see. And maybe we'll get there, at some point. But right now, if this is what we're left with for the time being, I'm not inspired, by the choices that they are going with here to represent AEW in this battle that we still don't have all the answers to. Like, are they really just going with Jon Moxley as the leader of the pack here? It's just the situation where he's just unhappy with how things are going in AEW, and so he's the number one guy. There's nobody else. He's not answering to anybody else. There's no big twist or reveal or anything like that. Like, is there more to the story that we don't know? I don't know. I mean, if you listen to what they were saying on TV, it sounds like this is it. And it's just a case of, Moxley just got tired of people being silly and all the, the funny business that he sees in the company, and he wants people to be serious. And it could be as simple as that. But I also think there's another problem here, which is that this angle is not all that different than the Elite angle, the way it started. And the Elite angle was only a few months ago. So it's almost like they're doing the same angle again. Does it not feel that way? And the Elite is still a thing. The Elite, they tried their own little hostile takeover. They were abusing their power, and they still are. And they were a heel faction that was kind of taking over the entire show. Now they're doing it again with the BCC, but it's only a few months after they tried this already, and it failed with the Elite. And that also is a little weird, and I think it hurts it.
It's almost like they want you to forget it. Like, yeah, we did that, but we really didn't. But, like, if we are leading to Darby being the one to take down Jon Moxley, I feel like that would need a little bit to marinate if you're going to crown him the one to take down Jon Moxley. And Jon Moxley wants a better AEW. He wants to bring out what he knows is in this locker room through Danny Garcia and Private Party and Darby Allin to be better than what they used to be. When they all get to that point, where do we go from there? I mean, I don't think after all that and what the story really is trying to project to tell us what the story is that locker room, are these guys going to feel any different going into 2025 than what we see of them now? The answer is no. So are they theoretically wasting our time with this? Like, where does this go? And what's the end result here?
I don't know if Darby is the end result as far as trying to kind of anoint him, or if there's somebody else that they have in mind, right? Who's Moxley if not Darby? Who's he going to drop the belt to? Who's the best option for him? Is it going to be another big name? Is it going to be somebody who's never been the world champion before, who they're trying to elevate to that next level? If not Darby, then who? Who would you put in that spot? I don't know if that's where they're going with it, but we can talk about, is there another option here that we're not looking at? Is there a person who you would like to see be the one to unseat Moxley maybe early next year? Is it Ospreay? I mean, who is that person?
Could it be
that guy?
Could it be Kenny? Kenny's the only one that would realistically make sense as far as a leader, for sure.
Well, but the Elite are making comments about Kenny, right? Jack Perry just wished him a happy birthday the other week and put fucking intestine guts on the birthday cake, whatever that was.
Yummy.
That was wild. So no, I don't get the impression that when Kenny does come back, which could be in the next couple of months. I mean, there's been talk that maybe he and Ibushi could be ready in a couple of months, which would be great. I think they're going for the Elite. I don't know that they're going to necessarily have anything to do with this story.
We talked about Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay.
I would have put the belt on.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that several times. I would have did the same thing, but again, I don't know what the end goal is. When Moxley gets what he wants out of these guys, are you going to look at them any differently? I don't think so.
Well, what is the end goal for him? What is his goal here? What does he want out of this? When is he satisfied that his mission has been accomplished? What is his mission statement?
He wants the feeling back. He wants that AEW feeling back.
Does he have nerve problems? Is that what you're talking about? He wants the feeling back in what? What part of in his brain, in his feet, in his arms?
I don't know. He wants that old Dynamite feeling back. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know where it goes.
I don't either. And so maybe in the end, they can turn this into something, but all we have to go on right now, we're watching these television shows week to week. They're telling a story, which is fine, but so far, like the story beats they're hitting as far as some of the people that they're using in these spots. It just leaves a lot to be desired. There's not a lot there to get excited about.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting to get a sense of, okay, where are they going with this? Is there a reason to really get excited or get behind this guy, get behind that guy? I don't know. We're not there yet. Whatever they did on Wednesday did not inspire a lot of excitement in me. And so we'll see if maybe this week, now that they've knocked off, again, the Dark Order and Top Flight, we'll see who's next on the list. It would be nice for them to also get back some names who have been on the injured list. You mentioned Kenny. Keith Lee tweeted the other day. I haven't heard from Keith Lee in a while. He told people he's still, he's going to make it back. He's on the mend. I don't know, what his status is. There's been talk of Powerhouse Hobbs might finally be coming back. Adam Cole just came back. So it's good to get some of these guys back. I don't know if they'll be a part of this story. But that's also something that's hurt them. They lost a lot of people, to injury. And only now are they starting to get some of these people back.
House of Black is going to be on Wednesday's show. We don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they confront the Blackpool Combat Club, but nobody knows. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. They got a whole card shaped up there. Moxley is going to be there on Wednesday, as they previously announced today. Two more stories here, guys, and then we'll get to your super chats. Stephanie Vaquer, there was a story in the, not the Observer, Fightful. Fightful put this out. They say that with Stephanie Vaquer in WWE, obviously she landed in WWE after immediately working New Japan's Forbidden Door with AEW. They were able to get some reactions within the industry following her NXT in-ring debut, which was last week. I think she wrestled Ren Sinclair. Those that we've spoken to, say Fightful, around the Mexican wrestling scene are of the belief that Vaquer will not need to return to the scene and exited accordingly. Sources in AEW did say that she made a good impression with her Mercedes feud, but they could tell shortly after that Forbidden Door happened that WWE had reached out and that she would eventually head to the company, though how quickly it came together surprised many. Our sources in AEW said that they understood the element of WWE wanting a great talent that they were also after, but didn't quite understand the element of pulling her from the CMLL dates before she could drop a title that she definitely needed to. However, when she was quickly turned around and wrestled on the WWE Mexican shows, that alleviated some of the criticism compared to her simply being signed and pulled off those shows. Thus far, WWE had appeared to be very happy with Stephanie Vaquer, and she appears to be enjoying her time in NXT. New Japan and AEW sources believe that it's likely that talent that worked Forbidden Door or co-promoted AEW shows in the future would have to make an agreement to not immediately go to WWE, likely just under that they're under contract as opposed to a separate agreement that has not been confirmed, says Sean Ross Sapp. I'm going to assume that is going to be somewhere along the lines of where they're headed, Jason. I've seen a lot of people claiming that WWE signed Stephanie Vaquer because of the Mercedes match. I think Mercedes actually said something along the lines of that as well. And Stephanie put out an Instagram story saying that I got to where I am through hard work and molding my craft and all that nonsense. But I would not put it past WWE to have more eyes on that match than any other match that she's done, because simply that Mercedes was a part of it, because that's the type of attention that Mercedes garners. But WWE was looking at Stephanie for a little bit before that match. It's very bizarre that they actually came together with a deal and they plucked her from that show, and they plucked her immediately after that show, and now she's on NXT. It did come off as like, all right, what's going on here? So it did raise some questions. But the talent now is probably going to have to sign some sort of agreement to not go there immediately. What do you make of that? And is it a situation where they are, I don't want to say AEW is being petty, but that's the way it comes off, that the rich can't get richer, and if they can't have it, then nobody else can. What do you make of that?
I understand it, honestly, from AEW's perspective, and from, what I've read, it's more a case of them trying to protect their partners, as far as New Japan or, CMLL. I understand the rationale from their point of view, where they're going to take the time to promote someone, let's say from one of these other promotions, to get a prime spot on their pay-per-view in a big match, big title match. They want to try to avoid a similar situation from playing out, where they give this person exposure on their show. Maybe they even go over, right? I mean, it depends on the politics of the match. And then 2 weeks later, we find out that they are going to WWE. I don't think it, like, if I'm Tony Khan, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, okay, look, we have some people who are not under contract maybe with us, but they're going to be on the show. And to try to protect ourselves and protect the other promotion, we want you to sign something that would make it so that you agree not to leave and go to WWE within a certain period of time. Because you know what? The person doesn't have to sign it. If they want to be on the Forbidden Door show that badly, they can sign a piece of paper and say, okay, I understand. And maybe it's a 90-day period, right? We hear about these 90-day non-competes that WWE, used to have. Maybe they still do. Okay, so for a period of 90 days, let's say, 3 months, I will not sign with or negotiate with or go to WWE, something, again, legally, however they want to phrase it. I don't know that it's unreasonable because, again, the power is in the hands of the performer. I would certainly give them the option. And if they don't feel comfortable doing that because they might want to leave and go somewhere else, they don't have to sign it. But Tony's also within his right not to feature them on his pay-per-view if he thinks they might bolt after the show.
And what about, I think there was a discussion that she was under contract with CMLL and that their contracts are very laxed. And if they if they got a big enough offer from a North American promotion, that they would work with that talent to let them go and send them on their way as long as they did the proper business. Is this something that Tony is now punishing the other talent for? Because not everybody's going to be signed to CMLL. He's going to have other talent sign this policy now. Meanwhile, this is just an isolated incident with Stephanie Vaquer because she was under contract with CMLL and they were very lax with their contract. Is he taking it out on everybody else? Does it come off that way?
Well, I mean, and again, that's if this is happening. Right now, It's just a rumor. We don't know for sure if this is what's going on. But you know what? Sometimes it takes one bad apple to spoil the bunch, just to use an old, phrase. Yeah. Sometimes all it takes is one to kind of wake you up to the fact that, oh, shit, we were caught flat-footed here. We should have seen this coming. And now we're going to take steps going forward to just protect ourselves. And I don't know that it's totally unreasonable. Again, if you do it in such a way where you are telling the talent, and this only goes for a select talent that they may be bringing in. Again, they're not AEW contracted talent. Look, we have an idea for you. We have a big match for you on the show. And we want you to agree to this, or we want you to sign that. The person should have the right to say yes or no. And if no, then they would not be featured on that show. And if they say yes, then they can sign it. They can get a spot on the show. And then they know for a certain period of time, because they just got featured on this pay-per-view, that to, protect these companies from having somebody immediately turn around and just go to the other place, that there's a certain X amount of time that they can't enter into negotiations with WWE. Again, I just don't see it as being this hugely, unreasonable ask, because we know that WWE always is watching. They're watching everything at all times. Did they have eyes on Stephanie before this? Probably. I mean, she had a tryout there, I think, a few years before, so it's not like they didn't know who she was. The timing of it, though, is very suspect.
Yeah.
You got to admit. I mean, I know they had a tour coming up in Mexico, but even still, I mean, the timing of that was definitely suspect. And if I were Tony Khan, look, I would be upset about that. So I don't see it as being anything terribly unreasonable. Maybe they do it, maybe they don't, but I understand them wanting to do it if they do.
Yeah, I think you guys over on the AEW side, let's worry less about missing out on Stephanie and more so pushing Jamie Hayter, because we need to get her back on television in a more meaningful role. You got your star-studded women there. Let's start pushing them. One last thing here. I know this is going to be exciting news for many people who love AEW. Chris Jericho's been with AEW since it started in 2019. He was the first AEW heavyweight champion. 2022, Jericho defeated Claudio to win the Ring of Honor world title for the first time. That was at Dynamite Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. He then worked with the brand, and he actually, I did not mind his run as the Ocho. I got to admit, I thought it was pretty cool. Now he's in a ladder war match tomorrow night with Mark Briscoe. That's for the Ring of Honor World Championship, and that is a rematch from Wrestle Dream. But Wrestle Purist, Jason, is reporting that Jericho's current AEW deal is up in 2025, and it should be noted that time could be added should Jericho miss any time due to injury or time missed. But right now, he's good to go, and when that contract up, he's got free clearance to go and do whatever he wants.
I thought the belief was his deal was up in 2027 or something. Where is this 2025 coming from?
Wrestle Purists.
All right. Well,
are we excited to see a learning tree on Friday Night SmackDown?
No, we're not. Not at all.
Oh man, the learning tree on Monday Night Raw sounds pretty exciting, man. I gotta admit.
Yeah, said no one ever. You talk about you mentioned Orange Cassidy before and overexposure. Holy shit. You talk about overexposure. I mean, What he needs is an extended vacation, is what he needs. And then hopefully, if you're him, hopefully it's a case where it's like, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Oh man, he's been gone for a while, man. Maybe now it's time to get Jericho back, and maybe he'll freshen things up, right? He always reinvents himself. Where's the reinvention? You got to go away before you can reinvent yourself. I have no interest. I really don't. And he has said that he has no interest, not interest, but like he has no reason to go back to WWE. Do I think he'll be put in the Hall of Fame one day? Yes. And you can't say never, because never is a long time. Do I think we'll see him back there at some point in some capacity? Yes. But he's in a real cushy spot right now. And I don't know what kind of equity he may or may not have in AEW, because he was right there from the very beginning. And we know the EVPs, right? They got their EVP titles, and who knows what other perks or stock in the company they may have gotten. I would be stunned if Jericho didn't get something similar. Like if the Bucks and maybe Omega and Cody got any of that stuff, why wouldn't Jericho? Because he was as important as any of them, I think, to the initial launch of AEW and the launch of Dynamite specifically. They needed somebody who had a big name and a big profile that was visible for all those years on WWE television. That's what he brought to the table. I thought he was absolutely the right choice to be the first champion. It was either him or Hangman. He was the right choice. I said that at the time. And he did very well for himself there for a long time. But now it's just to the point where it's just kind of sad a lot of weeks when I see him out there and I just can't bring myself to give a shit. And you talk about overexposure. He is the epitome of overexposure on that show right now. The idea that he would leave and go to WWE, I can't. Part of me almost hopes it happens, because I know there's a lot of people out there who will echo what I'm saying right now. And you know for a fact that there are some of those people, if all of a sudden the news came out that Jericho's coming back to WWE, all of a sudden Chris Jericho would have a whole new fan base. Oh, this is so exciting. I can't wait to see Jericho. Y2J, man, he's coming back to WWE television. They'd be so excited to see Jericho back on TV, where right now they can't stand the sight of him on Dynamite.
And then the other side would be like, oh, he's a traitor, man. He betrayed AEW.
Yeah. He's old and fat, and I never liked that guy. Yeah. It would be, I mean, you could just picture it now. It would be very entertaining.
I know Jason's excited to hear Fozzy on Raw. Hi, guys! Drink it in, man.
Think he would, you think he would argue to come out to Judas? Or would they force him to go back to his old WWE music?
No, I think they give him Judas.
Think so?
Yeah. No, nobody's interested in that.
You don't think you don't think he would allow them to give him a Def Rebel version of his
Def Rebel of Judas? No, thank you.
Well, no, just the Def Rebel Jericho theme.
I don't. Well, hopefully by the time he gets over there, that they are no longer with Def Rebel. But Jericho had some bangers in his WWE days. Jericho was a great theme.
You know what? I was never really a big fan of King of My World.
Okay.
I just didn't do anything for me.
I don't know. We'll see. Jericho in WWE for any amount of time is not what I really envision for.
Is
WWE.
there any match right now in WWE?
No, that's what I was thinking about. No.
It's like you could find so many people on the AEW roster right now. Oh man, I'd love to see this guy against him and him against him. I can't think of one match where it's like, man, I really want Jericho to go back, because I would love to see him against this guy. I can't think of one match.
No, there's nobody.
Not one.
Oh, man. Yeah, guys. Unfortunately, Jericho is just in that vortex. He is the vortex. So
he is.
He is the vortex.
He is the vortex. Yes, I agree.
Guys, thank you very much for all of your support here. We had upwards towards 2,300 people. I know it was a slow week this week, but hopefully you got some enjoyment out of episode number 70. We're going to get through your super chats in just a second. But before we do that, I'd love if you guys continue to hit that thumbs up. We got 781 likes, as I see right now. So please hit that thumbs up. And if you guys want to get those super chats in, they will remain open. So please, if you want to support the show, that is the best way to do so. Follow us on social media. Follow us on YouTube. Everything you need for Jason's channel is linked down below in the description. And we will be live tomorrow night for Monday, or not Monday, Jesus Christ, Wednesday. I wish. Dynamite tomorrow, Wednesday night Dynamite. Will AEW produce a better show than they did last week? Hopefully that is the case. Jason and I will be live on our respective channels, so you know where to find us. Joey, 34 months, testing the super chats. Thank you, Joey. And he says 10. Another super chat test. Thank you for the 10, brother. Edward, 38 months. NBA is back tonight, so wondering again, does wrestling need an offseason? WWE is definitely better. Am I the only one with some burnout from too much all year?
Not for us, it wouldn't be a good thing.
No.
We need to keep this train going here. Come on. We can't have an off-season.
But do I feel burnout? Edward, it's funny you said that. I was actually talking to myself while folding laundry earlier, and I said, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little burnout, man. Honestly, it's some shows are just not exciting at all, and then you definitely feel it a little bit more than normal when that happens, yeah. Sidro. $5 super chat. A few puns make me numb, but math puns make me number. Oh, God. And this one is for JD with his haters. Stupidity knows no boundaries, but it knows a lot of people. Yes. Thank you, Sidro. I'm sure that's not the only Sidro super chat we have here tonight. Lauren with a 2. Samantha will go to AEW. We'll see. Jason thinks not yet.
I don't think so.
Sidro with a 5. If any of you know how to fix broken hinges, my door is always open. Also, a question: if a parsley farmer is sued, can they garnish his wages?
Oh.
I like that one. Sidro, thank you, man. Joker's voice with a 5. I am dating myself, but I was lucky to get an invite to WrestleMania 7. WrestleMania 41 is in my hometown. I have best seats in front of my TV with the cold beverage. Those are the best seats always, man.
Can't beat that, man. You don't have to get stuck in the parking lot on your way out.
Lauren with a 2. KO is definitely better as a heel. I agree. I think that goes for a lot of people, better as a heel.
Yep.
It's easier to be hated. Rusty with 36 months. JD's rebuttal was spot on. I'm going to the AEW Cleveland show. Floor seats. If TK don't make drastic changes, it will be the last OTS I will be representing. Well, Rusty, I don't know when that show is. Is it in Cleveland tomorrow? I'm not really sure where they are tomorrow, but...
I don't know, but they have a show coming up in, it was next week. I think it's a Collision. No, it might be this weekend, actually, the 26th, right? So yeah. I think there might be a Collision coming up in Iowa. And as of a couple of weeks ago, they had 800 tickets sold. So I don't know what
Collision?
The latest update for Collision.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know what the latest update is. That was as of maybe 10 days ago. But yeah, they didn't even have 1,000 tickets out for that show.
Yeah, guys, I apologize. I had Carlito in the topic of the video, or the title of the video. We decided in the sound check we weren't going to talk about Carlito because there really is nothing to talk about. Honestly, I mean, he's in hot water. It was off script. I mean,
yeah,
nothing's gonna happen to him.
I mean, it was a 3-second comment that was stupid because it got him in hot water, which he should have known better. That, of course, that was what was going to happen. And that's all we know. It's not going to lead to anything significant, I don't think. And so until we find out otherwise, there really isn't a whole lot else to say about it. It was just a dumb comment for him to make. And it sucks, too, because I do feel like there's been more, I'm sure there's been more freedom that people have had with their promos and backstage segments probably under Triple H than they did under Vince McMahon. And you would hate for some dumb comment, to give them pause and do something to sort of force them to pull back on that. Like, if enough people end up saying stupid shit on television, I could see that having a negative impact on that sort of thing. So you would hope that doesn't happen and people can be smarter than that.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows what was going through Carlito's head. I mean, he plays like Yeah, he plays a very like silly, dumb character in the Judgment Day. Maybe he thought he was being funny, but in today's climate on social media, I mean, they'll cancel you for liking fucking pancakes over waffles. So it's like,
yeah, but I mean, it was just a stupid comment.
It was very stupid. Yes. Lauren with a $2 super chat. I am so happy Lillian is back. What about you? I mean, she wouldn't have been my first choice. I was never the biggest Lillian Garcia fan, but her voice does have a sense of nostalgia to it that kind of brings me back. If that's a positive I could say about her being back. Michelle with a 2. When do you see Judgment Day finally breaking up? I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe
not until next year.
Maybe like you mentioned with that potential Wyatt family feud or Wyatt 6 feud.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's the next logical program for them. But if it's going to happen, it's not going to happen until we're much deeper into 2025.
Moises Gonzalez with a 199 says, F the Dodgers. Yeah, not a big fan. Not a fan at all, but I love Freddie Freeman. Bader Mohammed with a 20 in Super Chat. Hello, JD. Thank you and Jason for this great weekly show. I will be at Crown Jewel and Raw in Riyadh. And I'm planning to have a sign for you and Jason. I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. I've had a few signs over there.
Yes,
over the years,
I mean they've been very front and center every year, man. I see it.
They have, and unfortunately, on some of the recent shows, I think they've gotten hip to it. There have been some awesome signs, and then he gets in, and then they get taken away. So, if you're going to be bringing anything, just try to be a little covert about getting it in there because it sounds like they're being more strict.
Thank you, Bader. I appreciate that, and so does Jason, man. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing that. Sidro with a 5. Don't worry about your smartphone and TV spying on you. Your vacuum cleaner been gathering dirt on you for years. What kind of pants does Mario wear? Denim, denim, denim.
I don't get it. Am I missing something? By the way, how come you can get away with saying Mario? If I say Mario, I get fucking raked over the coals. They're like, it's Mario. It's not Mario.
I don't know. So I've said it for a year. I've said it all my life, Mario.
Well, apparently that's the wrong way of saying it because every time I say it that way, I get yelled at. So it's Mario instead of Mario.
Is it the Italian way to say Mario?
I guess I'm not Italian enough. You should know better. At least I have an excuse. I don't know what your excuse is.
Oh, man. Sidro, thank you, brother. El Mase with a 10. TK ordered hologram to find JD and give him a 720 shooting star press. I'm going as hologram for Halloween this year, guys. That's my new costume.
Maybe the end game. If we were wondering who that person could be, that they're going to really rally around and be the one to take down Jon Moxley. Maybe the plan is to put hologram over with this undefeated streak. He's going like Goldberg. He's going to take it all the way to the World Championship.
I believe in hologram, bro.
Do you?
What about Beast Mortos? Can he join in on the fun too?
You know what I love? There was a segment. What God was it on? It might have been on Collision because it was the FTR segment, and. Yeah, because then Dralistico, they saved him. So they pulled him out of the ring, and it was Roosh, Dralistico, and the Beast Mortos. Mortos, he's got the mask on. And he's just standing there looking up at FTR, and he just goes, roar! Like, just in that way. Roar! I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, man. No wonder they're selling 900 tickets for Collision, man. Holy shit.
Oh, man.
El Mase, thank you, brother. Sidro with a 5. Why didn't the Terminator upgrade to Windows 10? Asked him and he said, I still love Vista, baby.
Oh, that was awful. That was awful.
What's Forrest Gump's email password? 1, Forrest, 1. Oh, my God.
How many people are even going to get that reference? I feel like that's a dated reference.
Michelle with a 2. If not Kevin Owens, what does Cody do at Survivor Series? Randy? I don't know.
No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if anything, it may be a triple threat.
Yeah.
You're not going to do a singles match with Randy.
Sidro with a $2 super chat. David had his ID stolen. He's now just Dav. Like, you know, it's the ID in David's face.
Yes, yes, thank you. I didn't need you to spell it out for me.
Oh my God, man. Apex with the 199. People say Jacob got buried by Cody in a Raw dark match. I don't know. I didn't fucking see it. So whatever I didn't see it.
How is someone buried if it's a dark match? Can someone explain that to me? I didn't see it. It's not buried to me.
Me neither.
That's why it's a dark match. You can't get buried in a dark match.
Matthew Miller in the chat says hologram for House of Glory. Listen, man, it's on our list of things to do for 2025, man. Jason and I want to call a hologram match. Hologram versus Mike Santana for the world title. Book it. Apex, thank you, brother. Also, Apex, Judge versus Otani will be one for the history books. Yeah, I don't know how much of the World Series I'm going to watch, but as long as I'm not working on that night, I'll probably be watching. PD Shaw, 44 months. Thank you, brother. Just a few more months and 48 months as a channel member. Appreciate you. Sidro, $2 super chat. Fatu versus Bron has been my dream match forever. Aura. Yeah. Future of the business.
Forever. They've only been on TV for months. What do you mean forever?
I don't know. Maybe he's a longtime OG Fatu fan. I don't know.
Maybe.
Joseph Morris with a $4.99. Do you think the Super Cena booking of Rhea Ripley has affected the overall Raw women's division? No, there's a mixture of problems. They don't have any top stars outside of Rhea Ripley that really fit that criteria. Becky Lynch is not there. Liv Morgan's done a great job, don't get me wrong, but she's not really the star that Rhea Ripley is. And there really is no singles competition outside of Liv right now. And it's a lot of tag teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's no credible challengers. I think it's a lack of credible challengers. You see the women they have in NXT right now, whether it's Stephanie, Julia, some of the people that are on their way up. The problem is they're there right now. They're not coming to Raw, so it's going to be tough. You know, when she beats Liv and gets that belt back, where does she go from here? Like, what's that next big match for Rhea unless you kind of slide over somebody like Bianca?
Yeah.
I don't know what that match is.
I'd love to see them break out Iyo. I think it's her time, but we will see what happens there. Joseph, thank you, brother. Sidro with a 2. You not the heel of IWC. You the heel, curing the IWC with facts. Sidro, thank you, brother. I guess we could both fit into that criteria. Thank you. Apex with a 199. What if Cena's last run is heel but retires face? Nah, they're gonna
keep dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen.
No, he's gonna go out. He's gonna go out on top. Alex with a $5 super chat. Brother JD and Solo, do you think MJF is that one generational name that Triple H wants to desperately sign to WWE? What is his ceiling if and when he joins? MJF is going to be a household name, in my honest opinion. You already start to see he's filtering himself into Hollywood. That's only going to become even more so when he joins WWE. He's getting the ball rolling now. And he is a future WrestleMania main eventer. That's my prediction on MJF.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Triple H would love to get his hands on him, and I still think at some point it's inevitable that he will end up there.
Yes. Right now he's got another 3 or 4 years with AEW, so hopefully they treat him good and give him some real substantial story to have the fans sink their teeth into. Apex with a 199 and a 199 and a 199, 3 times 3. They have the deal to Pat McAfee, but not Samantha. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, well, Pat McAfee is. I mean, I don't know. It's not really fair to compare her to Pat McAfee, but
Pat McAfee gets paid like $30 million a year. He doesn't have to do this shit.
No,
okay?
no, he doesn't.
They're just grateful to have him on their roster.
I think Lillian's social media said she's back for good, and a year of Punk and WWE happy. He wasn't the problem. No, I don't think. Listen, Punk was not an innocent angel, but I don't think he was the core problem there in AEW. No.
Punk was also injured for a good chunk of this year,
yes.
So let's not call it a full year yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he did have one of the best matches all year with Drew. So yes, he is He has definitely lived up to what he is worth, for sure. Cake with a 34-month. Samantha to AEW would be a welcome addition, but it's her choice. The IWC thinks women in wrestling are beholden to their wrestle husbands. I don't listen to anything that the IWC says. I think half of them are just fucking mental cases. But if Samantha wants to do AEW, I would love to hear her on AEW. It's whatever she wants to do. She wants to go sing music and write an album and record an album, wants to have a family with Ricochet, whatever. As long as she's happy. I don't care. I'm not losing sleep over Samantha not announcing Monday Night Raw, man. It's not that big of a deal to us. Justin Toner with a $10 super chat. Hey, guys, another great show tonight. I checked out both nights of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling this weekend. Some great matches, and hearing Morrow back on commentary equals easy thumbs up from me. Well, I mean, that's the reason why I ordered the show, honestly. Yes, it was a great 2 nights. I think Scott D'Amore's got something majorly cooking over there. And, Jason, did you hear? I know you did. Did you hear Morrow run down the Dynamite card as if he was doing it for fucking 5 years? Man, I
sounded like a natural.
Yeah.
Sounded like a natural. Maybe there could be a shockwave going through his bloods.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you, Justin. Brendan Watson with a $1.99. WWE changed Delta's name to Zarya tonight. Of course they did.
Zarya?
Zarya. Z-A-R-I-A, yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, first I thought you said Daria. I was like, what?
Yeah, Zarya.
Zarya. Okay.
Where is Giovanni Vinci? Debbie? Your guess is as good as ours. I don't know. Where the fuck is he?
Who was the person before that said they buried Jacob Fatu in a dark match? You want to see the definition of buried? Go take a look at Giovanni Vinci. If you could find him, he's 6 feet under.
It's probably in some island fucking somewhere in the remote, vast islands of Italy somewhere. I don't know. Good for him. Joshua with a $4.99. I'm a huge Brody King fan. Do you guys think I should give up hope that TK is going to give him a solid singles run?
Yes.
Jason answered it. There you go.
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, coming out of that match with Darby, a Wrestle Dream, it almost felt like they were, especially when he shook his hand after.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe they were going to break him away from the House of Black, spooky stuff, and then he was right back to doing it this week. So, if they're not going to do it with Malachi, then they're definitely not going to do it with Brody.
Arabian Knight 2000 in the chat says, Delta is trademarked by someone in MLW. Oh, he says, sorry, CMLL. Oh, okay. So Zarya was the name they chose. Okay. We'll see. Apparently she debuted at the end of NXT tonight.
Well, maybe she chose the name. We'll see.
Who knows? Apex with a $1.99. Any concern the Bloodline turns into the Wolfpack 2.0? No. Not worried about that at all. I think if Paul Heyman is really hands-on as we expect him to be, I don't think that's going to happen with Paul Heyman there. And Roman. No. Sidro, $2 super chat. Fatu lost over 50 pounds before debut. Call him Jacob Fitu. Sidro, that's awful, bro. I'm sorry. That's the worst one by far all night. Cake with a $5 super chat. WWE is allowed to mention Brock on TV, but not Becky Lynch for some reason. Her name hasn't been mentioned in months, even though Liv retired her. Brock's name wasn't mentioned. The only thing that was mentioned was Beast.
Right. Yeah. And just because they don't mention Becky does not mean that they're banned from mentioning Becky. I just think, why would you mention Becky? The minute you do that, you're just giving people the impression that she's going to be on her way back.
Yeah. BW with a $2 super chat. Delta debuted at the end of NXT tonight as Zarya. Thank you. Yes. Wolf Dragon Monster Den with a 2. Why does this week's Dynamite look like Rampage? I don't even have the card in front of me, bro. What's the rest of the card look like? I don't know.
Well, because you've got Sammy Guevara wrestling, which he doesn't always do on Dynamite. And you've got Mark Briscoe defending the ROH title on an AEW show, of course. Oh,
yes. Chris Jericho and Mark Briscoe. Ladder War match is the main event. Yeah, we got Jack Perry and the Young Bucks versus Danny Garcia and Private Party. Sammy Guevara versus Shelton Benjamin. Queen Aminata versus Camille. House of Black is in action. And Kyle Fletcher. We'll hear from Kyle Fletcher. Salt Lake City tomorrow night. Great. Yeah. Not the most exciting show, but we're hoping for the best. Arabian Night, $6.99. They could do an Owens. By the way, Jason, did you hear that? I think it was Mark Briscoe who mentioned that the Continental Tournament will be starting the Wednesday after Full Gear.
Well, I think that's when it started last year, right? It was.
Yeah.
I think it was right after Full Gear, so that timeline makes sense.
Yes, I'm very excited about that coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. The matches we got last year, so of course.
Arabian Night with a $6.99. They could do an Owens contract being up thing versus Cody for the title closer to his deal being up on a Saturday night's main event like Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank. They could. I don't know.
Yeah, but they're not playing up the contract aspect of it yet. So Owens saying I may or may not be back, it doesn't have anything to do with his contract. I mean, it's just he attacked Cody. He got sent home. He was upset about it. There's been no mention of his deal being up, right? That would have to be something they would introduce into the story.
Yeah. Yeah, if they did that first and then they wanted to go do something like that, sure. But they're not just going to willingly do that. But I like the idea. You know, it would give it a definite work shoot feel. Love those types of angles. Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say also, if they play it up like his contract is up or it's coming up, he's going to be a free agent. He could play the GMs against each other. You know, is he going to go to Raw? Is he going to stay with SmackDown? Maybe he pops up in NXT.
Gabe with 11 months. In a world of hypotheticals, would you guys rather have Samantha in WWE as announcer or CFO Money doing all the music in WWE? Definitely CFO. Absolutely.
Jim Johnston.
Well, that too. He wasn't part of the choices there.
Well, I'm making him a part of the choices. I'm overruling you, and I'm saying that if I had the ability to bring anybody back, it would be Jim Johnston to do the music. Then I would be happy.
Yeah, some people, when they mention Jim Johnston, they're like, well, he's 70 years old. I mean, we should go younger. I'm like, I didn't know music and musical talent needed an age. I think, well, Iron Maiden's still making music. Fucking Judas Priest, Rob Halford of Judas Priest is 70 years old. He's still fucking kicking. And what difference does it make? If he could still do it, why not? Hollywood guy with a 5. I would love to see Jacob Fatu with a black suit and sunglasses as the new tribal chief. Nah. Have him just come out and be a fucking savage. Zero Kaiba with 30 months. 30 months strong. That OTS title belt is almost mine. Question for Solid Monster. What did you think of Tony Khan's Twitter No, Jason's not going to. We're trying to stay away from this, man. Nothing with Tony Khan and me on social media, okay? Just leave it alone, please. I'm over it. Unless you want to give your answer.
To the question of Tony Khan's tweets to you?
Yeah, yes.
On social media?
Yes.
Well, so we know that I don't think it's a secret that Tony Khan, he does pay attention to certain people.
Yes.
On certain platforms who have certain shows. So that I don't think is a shock. I do think I will say this. I don't think that it helps your cause when you go on there and you... Now, look, if the person is calling you names, then hey, all bets are off, right? You do what you got to do. But there are certain people who I feel like try to get a rise out of you on social media.
Yeah.
And without question, that is something that goes on. And sometimes when you take the bait, it ends up, becoming a whole big shit show, which I think is part of what happened. But, it's just one of those things where one comment from one person leads to other people, because I think there were multiple people who worked there who chimed in with various messages, and it's like the whole, gang up thing.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole thing is, honestly, it's pathetic. Because I feel like it feeds into the very thing that they claim to be against. So, in the end, it's like, well, you're kind of feeding into what you talk about being a problem, which only makes the situation worse. And that's okay, as long as they're on your side. Right? And they're in agreement with you, then it's okay. But I don't know. I just find a lot of hypocrisy on social media, which is why I don't jump into these things, because I just think it ends up just turning into a situation where everybody ends up looking bad. The talent looks bad, you look bad, everybody looks bad. And it makes everybody look bad who has an opinion and chimes in, and then it just becomes one big flame war. So
yeah, no, I'm glad you stayed out of it. I usually do. You usually stay out of that bullshit. But I mean, my whole thing is where was Tony for the first 3 years where I was openly praising the product? I didn't hear one fucking word. Now all of a sudden, now it's a problem that I have a problem with what he's doing. And if you honestly, all I'll say is this: if you guys want a great sit-down explanation of what happened on that situation and a great opinion from someone that Jason and I both know, go listen to Don Tony. He had a perfect explanation of the entire situation. He did that on his Sunday sit-down. Go listen to it. So shout out to Don Tony. We love Don Tony.
Yeah. And again, it's just a case where you ask the question, how come you don't, hear from certain people when things are going good? Because it's a lot easier, I think, to jump on people when they're disagreeing with you and you feel like you're being personally attacked.
Yeah.
So I feel like every time somebody has any sort of criticism, and a lot of it legitimate criticism, they take it personally. And I think when people take things personally, they lash out and they react in the way that you often see on social media. Well, how come you don't agree with my opinion? How come I thought this was a great show? Because it's not even just the wrestlers. Like, you get that from a lot of the diehard fans, and WWE as well. But it happens a lot with the AEW fans. Oh, this was a great Dynamite, right? Well, we haven't gotten a lot of great Dynamites lately. There have been some good ones, and there's been a lot of not so good ones. But God help you if you say that it was a bad show, right? You immediately get attacked and no, you're a hater or what. Maybe you should take a break. Maybe you shouldn't. That's always my favorite. Maybe you're just burnt out on the show and you shouldn't watch the show anymore.
Yeah, I got that all week.
Why?
Stop watching.
Yeah, stop. Why do you hate watch the show? Why don't you just not watch the show at all? Why? Because I didn't like the show this week, but I liked the show 2 weeks ago. So if I wasn't watching the show, I would have missed that great show that they had 2 weeks ago. But the show was shit this week. And my job is to come on here and give my opinion and tell you what I think of the show. But again, they can't handle that criticism. And I think it's sad that it extends to some or a lot. I mean, I guess that's in your eye, but some of the talent anyway, in the company who they cannot stand any bit of criticism at all. And I just think it's sad. I think that it's pathetic. And I just don't understand why they waste their time. If they are kind of above it, why do they jump headfirst into it? What is it about that bothers them so much? Because, they have to see what's going on. They have to understand that there is valid criticism here. Right? There may be some criticism they think is over the top. But what about the valid criticism? They don't react to that because they can't, right? They're not going to go on, and I understand it. They're not going to go on social media and second guess their boss. They're not going to say anything bad about the company that cuts them a paycheck every week. I get that. But then, you know what? Stay out of it then, instead of jumping feet first into it, because then it just looks like you're being very reactionary to anything negative about the product, then it just makes you look like a fucking homer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's really what I think it boils down to. So nobody ends up coming out of the situation looking good, but I think it's even more pathetic when the talent sort of pile on and jump into things like that, because you would think they would be above that, and they're not. And I just find that to be incredibly sad if somebody has a difference of opinion.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, guys, it's actually in their handbook, their policy book about not doing that on social media, but they never follow it. So it is what it is. It's over with.
Well, how old is that? That handbook is like years old. I don't even know if they even have anything like that anymore. I feel like they ditched that a long time ago.
I got an updated glimpse of one. That's all I'll say.
I feel like that's something that has not been adhered to for a long time.
Nah. I mean, if Tony's not adhering to it, what makes you think the talent's going to adhere to it? Like, if Tony does it, they feel like they could get away with it. So,
there are times where, look, people, and look, you've done this too. You put your foot in your mouth sometimes and say shit that you shouldn't say, and it gets you into hot water. But I think at the end of the day, it's coming from a place of, okay, this is frustrating, and I want to see things get better, and I want to see things change. from their point of view, it's coming from a position of just hate. Or, yeah, it's just hate and grifting and this and that. But I just think it's such a cop-out answer because there's valid criticism that's being drowned out in the name of hate. Oh, you're just hating. No, actually, I think there are definite problems that need to be addressed. And how come nobody ever says anything about that?
I don't know.
Right? There's a select few that have a platform, right? And you're one, and I'm another, and there's other people who fall into that category who will talk about these things because we're not in a position where we have to feel like, oh shit, we can't say that. Hey, you know what? I can say whatever I want, right? Because I don't answer to anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very freeing feeling. I don't have to be afraid. Oh, I'm gonna lose my job. Oh, I'm not gonna lose fucking shit, right? It's a very freeing thing to be able to go out and say, okay, I thought this was great. I thought this sucked. I thought this sucked, and here's why. I wish that this change would be made. I think this is what needs to be done. It doesn't mean that I think I'm smarter than everybody else. It just means that, like, God damn, I mean, there's just some very stupid things that are done that I feel like could be easily addressed. And when they're not, it's frustrating as shit because you sit here every single week. Like, I've reviewed, I think, virtually every Dynamite that there's been.
Yep.
Maybe there's been a couple, maybe that I wasn't around to do a live stream for. Maybe. Remember, there was one. There was one that I missed. I was sick, and fucking MJF called me a coward.
I remember
But aside from that, like, I've been there since day one, and I know you have, right? 5 years. They just celebrated their 5-year anniversary.
Yep.
Funny enough, that's the one fucking show I missed this year. But I think we have a right, to be upset when we feel like the product is not all that it's cracked up to be or that we know it could be, because they have talent just out the ass in that company. And when you feel like that talent is either being wasted or it's not being utilized the right way, or, there's a story that's not being told where it could be told. I mean, we can go through a whole laundry list of different issues here, but I mentioned the show coming up, this weekend that had 800 tickets sold as of 2 weeks ago. I mean, is anybody going to talk about that? Is anybody going to answer for why that is?
They don't care.
I mean, if everything was all copacetic and everything was all hunky-dory, then you would think they would have more than 800 tickets sold for a show 10 days out. Are people just going to ignore that there are legitimate issues? I understand they just signed a fucking $600 million media rights deal, which I think is great. But are people just going to ignore that there are very real problems that need to be addressed here? Are we supposed to turn a blind eye to it? I don't understand.
No, everything's great.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently everything is just fantastic. Everything, I mean, never been better.
AEW Collision
Right.
live on TNT at 8 p.m. on Saturday.
7 Central.
7 Central?
Yeah. It's, I just thought nobody came out of that situation looking good. Everybody thought that, they were all we're on the right side here. It's like, no, you're not. Like, everybody just comes across looking like a fucking idiot, honestly, in those types of situations when that happens. But again, there's some people who just are scared and they're afraid, I think, to voice their opinions, their real opinions on certain things. And so it's a lot easier to just pick on other people. I get it, but I just think it's really pathetic.
I agree. Well, Zero Copy, you got your answer there, brother. He says, thank you, Solid Monster. Well, thank you, Solid Monster. Guys,
You're very welcome.
I don't know who else said anything on social media. I know Dax was in my fucking mentions. If you guys have any other people that I don't know of, I'd love to know what they said, because everybody said Tony cooked me. I mean, Tony's got more executive chefs than I've ever realized on social media. Everybody's like, JD got cooked. Okay. All right. I got cooked. That's great.
Yeah.
I could cook too. Sidro. Julia versus Rhea for Mania. Fast track Julia to Raw. Steph to SmackDown after Julia wins Rumble. Maybe hot take, but I feel definitely would add to the division. A little too soon, bro. I mean, Julia will probably spend at least a year in NXT. Same thing for Stephanie, but Rhea, I think, who I would put her against that Mania, I would say Iyo. That's just me. All right, what do you think?
Io's over, man. I mean, you heard it again last night on Raw. I mean, she gets the crowd all hyped up. And I mean, they're behind her as a babyface. So I said this a few weeks ago on my show. I think that she needs to be on the short list of possible Royal Rumble winners in January.
I agree. Chad is saying Fernando Valenzuela passed away.
Oh, wow. How old was he?
I don't know. Chad, how old was Fernando Valenzuela? Sidro, thank you, brother. Arabian Night with 279. Raw could use Jordan Grace, her and Rhea at WrestleMania. Yeah, I don't think Jordan's going to NXT. I would immediately put her on the main roster for sure. Apex with a 199. Liv beats Rhea for another face to be built up. No, Rhea's winning the title back, Apex. And Boots with the final super chat here of the night, $2 super chat. Will Heyman betray Reigns and align with Jacob Fatu? No. I think Heyman is going to rejoin Roman, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine that he doesn't go back to the OG bloodline and Roman gets his wise man back. Although, look, Heyman, he's turned a few times in his career, including on Brock, which sounds like a bad idea.
I think if there's any dissension between Heyman and Reigns, I think we save that for when CM Punk eventually feuds with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, thank you so very much for a great episode of TNT here on Tuesday nights, episode 70. Thank you for everything, guys. Super chats, likes. Thank you for the 2,300 in here. 63 years old, the chat said. Wow, that's young. Make sure you guys follow us on social media, YouTube. Everything you guys need is linked down below. Jason and I will be live for our Dynamite post shows tomorrow night. Jason, why don't you sound us off here for episode 70?
Well, I said at the beginning I was going to save my prediction for the end, and so we have the World Series coming up. I don't really give a shit now that the Mets have been bounced, so it's kind of hard to care. Although I will say, I thought I would be more upset, and I wasn't as upset as I thought I would, because I kind of feel like I wasn't even expecting them to make it this far.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hope and optimism for next season, but as far as the Yankees and the Dodgers, I'm going with Dodgers in 6.
Okay.
I think the Dodgers have to be the favorite in this, and I got them winning in 6.
I'm going Dodgers in 7, like I said in the beginning of the show. So we will see what happens, guys. World Series starts on Friday, and I will be, this weekend at least, I'll be watching for sure. But thank you guys very much for a great stream here tonight. Appreciate you guys. Jason and I appreciate everything you do for us on Tuesday night. We will be back next Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday, Election Tuesday, there will be no TNT that week. So you got us next week, and the week after that, no TNT. We'll be right back the following week after that to resume things here on Tuesday nights. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below. Go follow Jason on social and on YouTube as well. And we will see you right back here next week for episode 71 on Tuesday Night Titans. We'll see you guys later.